ambition. Ambition's a tricky thing. It's like riding a unicycle or a dental-floss tightrope over a wilderness of razor blades. Ambition can backfire. Ambition means more. Ambition means faster. Ambition means better. I wonder if you can you supersize ambition? Does that make you ambitious if you supersize ambition?
And I'm going to go ahead and say welcome to this week's episode of Sir Michael and me being Matthew. And again, we are blessed with the presence of one Mr. C. Smith over yonder couchway. And yeah, so we're here, we're back. It's great to be alive, great to see both of your faces.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're not going to waste any time getting right into it. So between last week and that episode, which we recorded, and now, what interesting in your life, or not interesting in your life, has occurred?
Not really a whole lot of interesting stuff in the way of meaningful, impacting things outside of just getting to go have a fun weekend playing golf with my brother and my friend Marcus, which I put up some videos on our Instagram. If you don't follow, go on Instagram and find us, Mikey and Me Podcast. That's where y'all going to find us at. I believe we do have a link in our bio on here. But yeah, I just had a good weekend playing golf.
How did you perform in your golfing?
Oh man, I'm going to be 100% honest. We were supposed to play 62. What was it? They call it a foursome. I'm holding up 8 fingers.
I mean, that was 12 plus 1.
Is that so? So 2v2. So it was me and Caleb. We were supposed to play against our other two friends.
That's cool.
But one of them didn't show up because he stayed out drinking all night. So really, I didn't count at all. I did not count anything in the way of how many strokes or how many did this. I don't know. I was just whacking the hell out of the ball.
I can only do it in about 6 strokes.
It's like let's just say I did really good.
6 strokes? I can finish in about 6.
Oh, okay.
Golfing.
With the club. Okay, no, you thought, yeah. So no, it was other than that, no, man, there was nothing really crazy happened. It was just a cool weekend.
Okay. Mr. Couchman. Did I see you this weekend?
Yeah. Came over and we finished beating that.
Yes. We did finish Streets of Rage 4.
Streets of Rage.
And we were like at one level left, basically.
Yeah, we had quit. Yeah, we had quit the week before with like one level left. And if we had just kept playing that night, like we would have beat it. But
then we would have had nothing to look forward to.
Like, 10 or 15 minutes more than like what we had played. Then we played some... What was
dude, Helldivers too.
Helldivers
too. I'm getting pretty main veined on that right now, dude.
Brent really wants to. He was talking about getting it the other day. He was like, if Matt wants to get down, like I'm down, and
it's a surprise hit. Like if you just Google Helldivers 2, you realize like the developers were not anticipating. Like the servers have been almost inaccessible for a few days because of their capacity. Like
really,
dude, it's
pretty dope.
Dude, it's pretty freaking awesome.
I'm going to have to check it out.
Dude, yeah.
You're going to have to show it to me
except
after
you need
we're
a
done.
PC or a PS5.
You have to show me when we're done.
Yeah, definitely. So, that's cool.
And then, I think Sunday we watched the finale of that show.
Oh, yeah.
That show.
Oh, yeah, that's one thing.
Unless that was a topic.
It's some point, I think.
It's part of our weekly catch-up, which I guess I'll go through mine real quick, which last week... Obviously, we did whatever we did. I see my dad once a week on Thursdays. Comes over for dinner. That's normal. Friday, just keep working to keep the marriage alive. Like every night. Let's see. Saturday, Chris comes over
to help keep the marriage.
Yeah, it always helps to have that buffer, that friendship protection to help keep you safe.
She can't yell at me directly while Chris is
around.
It's
harder for them to hate you as much whenever they see how much someone else likes you. And
he was leaving little Post-it notes around.
Yeah, if you blink twice, if you're scared.
How much paper I had to eat.
I'm joking. This is where I have to say I love you, honey. I'm joking.
You're the best,
so there's
Stephanie.
that. Before we touch on the one thing he just said, following up. Okay, so there was an Oscar movie that I hadn't seen yet.
Really?
Yeah, one of the Oscar nominations because it hadn't been released anywhere or even on the pirate world, and it means I could find it yet. Finally, that became released. It's called Zone of Interest, which it probably should win Best Picture. I expect Oppenheimer to, but if there was a surprise hit, this Zone of Interest, it deals with so it's basically historical. It's about the commandant or whatever German soldier or military leader, the one that was in charge of Auschwitz. It's basically a movie that takes place entirely like with him and his family in his house, which is like right next to Auschwitz. And it never like goes into the camp. It's only PG-13. Never goes in the camp. You never see any of the stuff. Like, it's just barely in the background. You hear, and that's a huge component.
Dad's got to go to work today.
There's a huge component. Yeah, just the sound. Like if you read about the amount of time he went into the sound effects that are just kind of in the background, and you always kind of see smoke, to where it's none of it's ever hardly directly talked about, but it's a present there, and he's got this normal family life with his wife and kids. And it's fascinating.
Yeah, he's
for
just like the
different reasons. Yeah, just that aspect of it was nuts in the way it was done. It should probably win, but if it does, that'd be awesome. But I expect Oppenheimer. But Zone of Interest, it's rough, but it's pretty.
So it's
pretty
one
powerful.
of those situations where it's almost like it's it just sucks that they were made in the same year and had to compete against each other because they're both. It sounds like they're both probably equally.
Yeah, I mean it's basically a foreign movie, but it was made by an American director because the whole thing's in German, right?
All right?
So you have to. It subtitles the whole thing, but it was made by an American.
Deutsch.
Sprechens Deutsch, right? But it's funny because this chick, the wife of the guy, Sandra Hüller or whatever, she's actually in another movie that's nominated for Best Picture, Anatomy of a Fall, which was a phenomenal one also.
That was the staircase one.
She's nominated as Best Actress for one of those roles, which has got to be pretty crazy because if not, she could have easily been nominated for both of them in the same year. But I watched that finally. I highly suggest it. Other than that, yeah, I won't bring up these other ideas and thoughts I had, but we all watched this. We all consumed the finale of The True Detective.
Yes.
Right? So I went into... I've watched every season. I've everyone, understandably, I believe, season one had the magic. It's one of those magical, amazing seasons that it'd be tough for them to even come close to again. So you go into I went into every season, kind of expecting that. Season two, a lot of people were disappointed with. I've gone back, and honestly, I feel like over the years, that's going to get a better assessment than it has been.
On you.
And I think people, and even if the director Nick Pizzolatto, whoever acted like he was disappointed, I think it's a lot better than people.
Well, season
remember.
one is a tough act to fuck.
That was kind of the whole point I was making.
It's like you could make it,
Yeah.
So I was gonna say season two was that Colin Farrell, Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, Colin Farrell, Vince Vaughn.
I like
and
that
the chick
season.
that's in Yellowstone.
I honestly really
Taylor
liked
Hitch. Yeah, and like I said, the world it builds there is the more kind of weird, creepy Twin Peaks-ish. So it's unique. The third season was for me. It was great up until the end. Like I feel like it had a lot of promise, and then I was disappointed in the ending. So I went into this one just kind of being like, okay, I'm gonna see how it goes. I was expecting kind of to be completely let down, but I won't say how I felt at the end. I'll give you, I guess, Mike, if you want to say your thoughts on the finale and overall that or the fourth season.
Yeah, I mean, so my whole quickly on, I never watched the first season until in order I watched the second season.
What?
And then I ended up watching the first season. And then at that point, now I've watched everything.
So he got lucky.
But it's like...
Wait, so I'm curious what you thought about the second season. Is that being the first one you watched?
That's what I'm saying. So not having watched any of it before, and so I wasn't predisposed to kind of feeling any kind of type of way about it or having any expectation.
Can I side note that it's... For anybody that hasn't watched it, isn't it an anthological series or whatever where it's like... You don't have to watch season one.
Technically, yes.
You could start watching season two, and it does.
Technically, like Fargo, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Where it's one of those where, you wouldn't have to go. You could potentially, if you haven't seen it, watch it the same way Mikey did, and you may get more enjoyment out of the second season than.
Yeah. So I didn't. I ended up just watching the second season first, and I thought it was pretty. I thought it was cool. I thought it had a lot of interesting aspects to it, and then other people I knew that had seen the first season didn't give it such a good.
It got shit on, basically.
It really did, yeah. And so I was just kind of like, oh, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was pretty good, And I still stand by it. I do think it was a really good one because I mean, Colin Farrell pretty much played like kind of a drunk cop in a sense, or an alcoholic cop. But yeah. But so, yeah, to touch on what you were asking me about this season, about the most recent season, how I feel about it and how we feel.
So you did watch 3, just to make sure. So
I've watched, okay, so no, 3.
I watched 1 and 4.
3 I watched I watched like the first 2 episodes and then that's it. I haven't, I'm on the same pretty much as him. I've watched 1, 2, and 4. Caleb and I were talking about episode 3 or season 3. Yeah, no. So I mean, yeah, season 4 was. I felt let down. Aside from having putting all the other seasons to the side, just from viewing season 4 start to finish, I was let down simply because of how they brought in an element that I didn't necessarily see as being 100% necessary with the ending in mind. I feel like if that was going to be your ending and how it ended, then you should have, there was a whole other way I wish they would have gone with it.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they could have made it 2 more episodes. I feel like it wrapped up quicker.
It was so short. It was
it was 6 episodes, I
6 or
think.
7.
And
I think it was 6.
Yeah. I think they had to wrap it up somewhat quick because it was like it almost felt like they didn't know how to tie in that supernatural element to being the cause of something, and then it was a very realistic cause. It was something you didn't even see coming in a sense, and it was like, cool, I didn't see that coming because you invoked all of this other shit.
Well, but it was kind of like what they did in the first season too, where it was like, if when you finally find out who or what it is or whatever, it was like you're like, oh man, I saw that just for a split second or something earlier on, but paid no attention to it.
Right.
And so it's almost like a little breadcrumb that like they leave you to where it's like, but yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it.
About halfway through the newest season of True Detective, I was worried that it was going to possibly really have some supernatural tie-in, which traditionally, for detective shows that I enjoy, I like it to have a logical, natural explanation. So the fact that it ended up having the ending that it did, I was worried it wouldn't. So I was pleased, but at the same time, I wasn't blown away. But I definitely liked it more than the 3rd seasons. But so now it's like if I had to rank them, I would probably go season 1, 2, 4, 3. But and as I'm not like, it's my favorite show of all time. The first one was phenomenal, and I watched them each, But yeah, so it was enjoyable television. It was a good journey, and I think the conclusion was satisfying enough. I think there was enough resolution for the most part. And like Chris, speaking off camera, there's some moments that are left open to the viewer's interpretation. Which in a lot of art and a lot of things that is good. It's a good thing, because you don't want every question perfectly answered. And I know some directors and creators intentionally leave it that way, and they might not even have an answer that they would say, this is what it's supposed to be. They literally be like, I don't even know what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, they'll leave it ambiguous just to keep, just to keep people talking about it, and
And that's just the art. That's the art that they wanted to create. If I create a piece of art, it could be, just like Rorschach art or something. It could be, the intention is for the viewer to consume, and it, whatever it means to them, that is what's intended to be and do.
One of those eye of the beholder type situations.
Yeah, eye of the ball holder. So so that was True Detective. So that was pretty relevant, I would say. One thing on just touching briefly on last week before we get on to trending this week was there was this movie called Fingernails that came out sometime last year. It's like an indie film, and technically I guess you'd call it science fiction, but it's basically present day. For the most, it would come across as present day, but they came out with some tests that they've been able to, using a person's fingernail, like, so taking a fingernail from an individual and from two individuals and run them through some machine, and it basically tells them if they're compatible or not. But like compatible to the point of if you get a match, you'll never get divorced. Like you found your soulmate. It's basically like saying you found your soulmate that is perfect for you. And if so, a lot of people start doing this to try and they'll start dating somebody. They do this. If they don't match, they break up. So it kind of deals with a lot of. So the concept was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it doesn't. The concept is cooler than the movie. I feel like at the end it's kind of boring and slow, but just the overall theories and ideas behind relationships and the idea of the perfect mate and what is and isn't, and how much of how much of a successful relationship is the emotion and passion versus somebody that I can just live with every day and get along with. You know what I mean? It's because it's not like every day I see my wife and it's just like, oh, it's just like I want to ravage you like the first day I saw you. It's so there's
you
lose things.
You lose a bit of that interest, and it's not to say that anything's really changed, but some of that shine wears off.
Yeah, but so all that just to say the premise is that made me think of, okay, so last week we were doing the sound listening, and you saw the physical reaction that I would have to some music, goosebumps. Like I would have goosebumps, taking that same premise but applying it to music. So get a bunch of people in a room to see, and that's a measured physical reaction to see, okay, how many people, get two people in a room, play a song for them, and see if they both have the same physical reaction to it.
I see.
And that be like, and then it's just like in a story, science, sci-fi thing. But even if it's not for a potential partner, it's a way to know that you connect with that person on a level like you don't with that. Like if anyone else in the room got goosebumps from the songs I played, there would automatically, even if it's a guy, there would be like a different level connection. Like you felt exactly what I felt from that, and there's some, there's power in that, whatever it is. So I thought that was interesting.
No, yeah, for sure.
And I think that's all.
I really
I need
wanted
to
to
ramble
quote
on
Ice-T right there from Law and Order SVU.
What part? Oh yeah, that means
now,
you.
Yeah, that means you.
Yeah.
Don't get me going on the old SVU, man.
That's cool though. I mean, that is, you always have very interesting ways of seeing things.
No, but it's just an idea.
And of also applying things you already know to other areas. That's cool.
But that also had me thinking about the, just in general raves. It's like, okay, yeah, raves, people like to go out and party and do drugs. But honestly, what they're doing is getting a bunch of people in the room, and that electronic song you liked. It's getting them in a room and getting them to feel and share an emotion all the emotional energy that's in there. I like to see studies on that.
Taking, Molly and excess.
Yeah, but even if you didn't have all the drugs in there, you could still get some powerful emotional connections.
100%.
I was gonna say that it's
sorry about that.
I'll quote him again, man. It seems like every episode I'm gonna do it, I guess, and I never anticipate to do this. But he said Alan Scotts. Yeah, that guy, Alan Watts. No, he was talking about how it's like at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of people digging the same thing. He was saying, you see, like people look at like monks in a temple and they're sitting here doing this Om mantra or whatever they are. And it's like at the end of the day, it's like they're all just digging the same thing. The same as when people are in church.
And they're singing this. You're going to find a group of people that are into the same shit you are.
Exactly. And what you're into is. Yeah, and so it's like at the end of the day, all that is like people all in that moment grooving with the same thing and relating on just that very, whatever level that is. I'm not sure. I don't want to put a name to it, but
it's simple and basic. It just, whenever you take into that emotional, powerful feeling that music can give you.
Yeah.
Like even just listening back to that segment, I'll hear that song for whatever reason, man. And a lot of it, I think, my time playing instruments and stuff, because I'll be like, okay, yeah, it's just doing the same part here, but on this time when they do it, you hear them hitting the splash cymbal, right? And it's just a subtle difference, but the splash cymbal, whenever you mix that in, it gives it this different explosion sound, even if it's just everything else identical. So it's like all those little elements will stand out to me and be like, oh, I love this part just because of that little difference on that cymbal is hitting, So
that one little alteration in that bass line.
Yeah. So. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff. I talked a lot. I'm sorry about that.
Don't apologize.
Don't ever apologize.
But do we want to? Do you have anything before we get off of the whole about True Detective?
No.
Before we your interpretation of it?
Like, no, it's like I enjoyed it. I didn't, it was like the first 2 episodes I thought were really good. The middle 2 were kind of, it was like, I don't, I mean, they were good. They were all good, but the middle 2 kind of felt, but the middle 2 kind of just felt like we got to throw some stuff. And there was stuff that was pertinent.
Shit against the wall.
There was a lot of stuff that was pertinent, but a lot of it, just kind of felt like filler.
Like what wasn't, but should have been the whole, this is the 3rd day of night, the 4th day of night. What relevance at all did the fact that it was nighttime for however many days in a row have on any of it?
No.
I don't know. I think maybe just as a measurement of, like, honestly, for no other reason than to just keep track of how long it took to transpire. Because it's like when you watch a normal movie, it was like, like when you watch a normal movie, it's, it's daytime, and then it's like, then it's night.
Have months gone by?
Well, but it's not even necessarily that months go by. It's like you can visually see. It was like, okay, the night before is when he went to go meet with the old girl, and then now this morning he's going to meet with these people. In that show,
they kind of had to distinguish
it was
somewhat.
like there had to be some way, because it was like because I remember thinking that at one point, like during the show, is that it was like it's always not. It's like, oh yeah, it's fucking Alaska. It doesn't matter if it's 3:30 in the afternoon, it's dark.
And I guess
so I feel
there's
like
a psychological effect that has on other people that's probably an underlying factor.
Probably a lot like Seattle and stuff.
Yeah, depression, like suicide rates, and all that.
And that's what they address too about the universe coming apart. Or that it wasn't uncommon for people there to see things or to experience stuff, which is probably a byproduct of living in darkness.
Yeah, and see, that's what's interesting to me is how other people see, it makes me appreciate my opinion just in the sense that it's like, not that I think I'm right, but just understanding that my opinion is simply that, my opinion. Because everybody else that I've talked, well, the one thing that is kind of interesting is that I feel like me, him, my sister even talked to me about it the other day, and it almost seems like you were the same, but the 2 middle episodes were kind of just... I kind of felt the same way.
Kind
that
of
they weren't
filler, right?
Yeah,
they weren't really for such a short season.
Yeah, they weren't
filler episodes.
That's what I'm. Yeah, it wasn't. It was like y'all really could have done. That's why I
knew it was like episode 6 was the finale,
and that's why I said about how you could have you could have made it a lot cooler in the sense of making it a game of Clue where you had a set amount of people. Don't invoke all the supernatural side. Make it like we know how many people are involved, and now let's try and figure this out. And it's a web of lies. You said you were here, and kind of tangle it that way and have a twist make it to where the killer was somebody you never expected, rather than invoking all this stuff, because that was kind of like the time, the nighttime, the daytime. It's like I felt like so much of it was just irrelevant to the story, and you tried to make you tried to capture what you had in the first season. And you really should have just left all the first season behind and not even just forgot about it.
Like
and
you're
just
trying
made
really
something.
hard to throw everybody off.
Yeah, no, it's funny if you're actually looking for a detective show that you feel like, okay, I can actually try and solve it. This one that just came out on Hulu recently called Death and Other Details. This might be for you. And this is just a quick reference. This is like a detective mystery show where actually trying to solve it and looking for clues and stuff.
I got you.
Death and Other Details. It's just a quick throw out there if you're actually looking for a detective show where actually trying to be a detective watching it. This would be worth checking out. Death and Other Details. But cool.
That's good.
I think that catches us up, which leads us to trending this week, which I look back at some. I'm not even sure I'm satisfied at all with what we're doing here, but we're gonna see.
Nah, man,
we can refine it.
It's
but,
okay.
We'll see what's going on, and we'll let Chris be visible. So far, I've just kind of started with Google Trends and basically seeing what's trending now more than anything, and maybe about to say if anybody watching, Jake. Who commented a lot. Oh, before we go on, we listened to that song.
Great song,
We
Jake.
can't forget that.
What a song.
Yeah. Summer of '78. Yeah, Jan Tiersen. I really dug it, man. We can definitely see what she meant by zoning.
We were
zoning out to
vibing.
it.
We all three, we held hands, thought about you, and listened to the song.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, we sat here and did that before.
No, seriously, though, good song.
Yeah, it was definitely a good song.
Shout out to Jake.
Yeah, shout out,
single-handedly engaged more in one post than I think we.
He really did.
All the
no,
videos.
we owe Jake
yeah.
a bag of Fritos or something.
Okay.
He wants a Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
That's what
That's what Matthew also indulges in.
Dude, Dr. Pepper.
You need to get Jake and Brent in here together.
Okay. So if anybody has what Matt was going to say though, if anybody has a good
website
for us to go for us to consistently go to each week for our trending topics, please let us know.
Hopping around like mad rabbits.
Because we've just kind of gone through Google and
which we thought could be fun, but at the end
it's a total crapshoot though. Too.
Yeah, and, dude, seriously, look, okay.
And there's no way that
don't know any of these things.
There's no way that this stuff can. This is not what we're looking for.
So here you go. Okay, this is up my
up your what?
Up my tree alley.
Okay.
Elden Ring. Okay, so is this an Elden Ring? Elden Ring was a game.
Slip.
Is this okay? So is this a DLC or is this a new game? Elden Ring was a huge.
So for those who might not know, what's a DLC?
Downloadable content. It's basically an expansion to a video game.
Okay.
The main game is released, and then over time they have cheaper little add-ons you can get
rather than making a new game.
Right.
So like a skin, and a skin is like
not a skin.
Oh, okay,
it's
not
just
a skin.
like
That's not
if
DLC.
you have one main quest and they release some additional small quests.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
I understand. So they're adding a whole piece, a whole story to the game.
Oh wow. So it's $39.99. So it is an expansion, but it should be robust.
Yeah, pull that plug
and I played Elden Ring, and I don't think either of you did.
No, I did
but
not
it was
play Elden
when
Ring.
that came out. It was a lot from Software. They did like Demon's Souls, and some of those. They brought back the insanely difficult game that has very few save points, to where you could spend hours and you die.
Oh, wow. Talking about Dark Souls.
Dark Souls, yeah. Demon's Souls was the first one, but then Dark Souls, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's one that
it's like that, right?
Not up my alley, but it's one that you got to show mad respect for.
Right.
Yeah, everybody knows
that's
about Dark
cool.
Souls.
I played it a bit, and it's one of those games that was refreshing in that it was a complete ass game when it came out. So many games you feel like they come out to hit a schedule and they're not refined. They got a bunch of patches and bugs. Yep. The Elden Ring was so robust and complete and well polished. It was refreshing. So that's cool. So there's news on that. Napoli versus Barcelona football stuff.
More football.
Arsenal football. Liverpool. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is a girl.
Hey, we've got a viewer that has like a football channel. Some kid in the UK. Yeah.
Hells yeah.
I don't know why I just thought of that. He's just he does a bunch of football content.
Okay. Well, here's something that's not football. I'll let you try and pronounce that.
I'm not.
Okay. Idea
Broadbent. HIV/AIDS activist. Okay.
Oh my goodness, is she okay? Hopefully
she's
okay.
not
What's
pulling
happening?
After
Toby Keith, I'm very hesitant. After Toby Keith, I'm very hesitant to comment.
Okay, hold on. This might.
Matt's like, this might apply to me. It's like, hold on.
No,
guys.
the thing is,
it's not.
Yeah, I
make
make too.
It's nothing.
I make at least everything. I would make too much money to actually ever get much from this.
They're like, we can give you
Enter Miami, Beyonce, Texas Hold'em. Oh, did y'all hear that she released that new song like during the Super Bowl or after? She's doing a little bit of a country route with stuff.
Oh, Beyonce? And how do you feel about that? It seems like you have an opinion on it.
I just know it's more about. And country is one of the largest
R&B fan.
One of the largest genres to make money off people. Like, think of how many artists went and did country, and it's like easy money. You got your Counting Crows dude, Steven Tyler, I think, did a country. Aaron Lewis from Stained did country.
Oh, that's Mikey and them. Like they all fucked with Aaron Lewis.
Yeah, like hard, it's almost. I mean, it's fine. It's the way they make money.
I could never really.
Yeah, I remember he had one song that was like on one album that he did that was pretty good. And I can't even remember it. So how good was it?
It's just, hey man, make money how you make money. It's just funny to see. I'm just entertained.
I remember y'all quoting it all the time.
Yeah, what song?
I can't remember.
I know I can't either, but it's like I can hear it. It was like
Alex
I like
was
to smoke, or I don't drink on my son, but I
no.
smoke.
Alex Cole always used to get annoyed with it, so I would always recite it to him and just to annoy him.
Oh, that's fun. Well, even more fun is this Kansas City shooting.
Yeah, did you hear what started that?
What
the fuck are you looking at?
That started it.
That's what the whole thing was about.
So some fella.
Two groups. It was like
some
a guy
fella said to another fella.
So the guy shot his sister.
WTF are you looking
at? It was
at?
where it would be like. Yeah,
but so it was a black person, a black girl.
No, it was
okay.
It was dudes. Like, but a dude was there.
But there was a sister there.
They were black too.
Oh,
all of everybody. They were like.
I see what you're doing here.
It was like, yeah, I get, yeah.
I can't let it go. I'm sorry.
But
he's trying to tie in these jokes from 4 episodes ago.
Sorry, Chris.
I was
so what
trying
happened?
to get away from that.
Chris,
actually.
since you know, so what happened?
But no, like earlier today, like I had heard a story that was basically saying that the whole thing originated literally just from a like, what the fuck are you looking at type thing. It wasn't even two groups of people that had previous trouble that like caught themselves, together in a public place or anything like that.
Right.
Somebody saw somebody that they felt like was mugging them, and they were like, "Yo, what are you looking at?" He's like, "What are you looking at?" And then it literally just
did anyone die? I really don't know anything. So
it was nobody was
involved that died. I think
it was a bystander on some
for real, one of those
shit.
things.
So yeah,
man.
And so but it
like
was
at
a
least
dude.
Let the
there was
dumbasses
a guy
that are doing it die, but the innocent bystander do that. That gets me, man.
Yeah, it was a guy. I believe that like one of them was a guy that was there with his sister, and then the other, it was like a group of dudes. And so I'm not sure who said what to who or like what, and don't quote me on it, but that was the rundown I watched earlier. I watched about
it's tragic stuff, man. Party too hard, bad things.
Is.
But hey, this is interesting.
Dangerous world.
A Gila monster. Colorado man dies after bite from a Gila monster.
Why did
so
he
he got
a
it
Gila
himself.
monster?
Hold on. He illegally kept it as a pet.
Oof.
What? So Colorado man has died after a bite from a large venomous lizard called a Gila monster that he legally kept as illegally. I'm pretty sure I ran that together for people.
I had a topic come to mind. I want you to finish this trending this week, but this just made me. I want you to finish this.
Okay. So he had it. He shouldn't have. He became ill after being bitten on the hand. I just wonder if it says how long it took for him to die.
Goddamn Gila monster bit my hand off.
I'm just trying to see the timeline. So you get bit.
Carl Weathers.
How long does it take to die? That's what I'm curious about the timeline.
I bet it's fucking agonizing, bro.
Yeah, I just wonder how long after a bite it takes for it to happen. So
the venom just go into like anaphylaxis or something. Yeah. Like your fucking shit like swells up.
That's the girl I used to date, anaphylaxis.
Dude, she was.
I dated her, boy. She wild. She was just wild, man. Anaphylaxis. She was just.
A bitch will choke you.
Yeah, man. She spent all my money on Mad Dog 2020.
Anaphylaxis, you won't be flaccid. That's for sure.
No, but what I was gonna say is that little thing which you were saying about the fellow that had the pet Gila monster.
Yeah.
That reminded me of that whole like double-banded cobra that dude in Grand Prairie had that got out, or Arlington, and they never found that cobra, dude.
Wait, hold on.
What's Caleb with the updates?
So there's it. Well, I had asked him one day. I was like, Caleb, you remember that news article you sent me? So just look up like I think it was Grand Prairie or Arlington.
Arlington cobra.
It was a cobra that got like that somebody
a couple years ago, like
somebody had
or some shit.
It was a double banded like brown cobra,
a double banded African cobra.
Yes,
I think is what it was.
Grand Prairie snake owner kept cobra. So this is a couple years ago.
Okay, so 22. So maybe it was. Wait, no. That is it, but it was looking like those are like updates on it. I was trying to see when the
either way, as far as I understood, they never found this cobra.
Update still on the loose, so and that was 2021.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So there was a double banded cobra that some dude had that he shouldn't have had in his house, and regardless of how this fella had it or what part of the country this thing came from, it was a brown cobra.
Oh yeah, did they ever find the king cobra?
No.
See,
never found.
Never found. So this cobra,
but I guess that's a positive note.
Yeah,
so it
they're
started
saying
in
it's
August
unlikely
4th.
to have survived. Just probably, I would have to guess because of the freezes.
Yeah.
Because of the cold weather. But then again, I'm not going to go ahead and bet on
they
it.
hibernate.
What
So
happened?
it's
I was
like,
going to
they
say,
go
what maybe
hibernate.
say this snake, bred with another snake. Now we got
What's
cobra
this say right here,
rattlers.
Mikey? How venomous are they?
The most venomous snakes in the world? One of them. Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah, and he's just out there roaming
Wait,
around.
so but this here says that it found its way to Twitter 3 years ago. So it created a Twitter account.
Dude, I'm
like,
telling
I'm
you,
in
it's
your
such an interesting. It's a very
like-
interesting story. But one of the
is.
things that like Caleb was one that had told me about it. One day, I still talk to Caleb a lot, but I used to talk to him every single day for hours on the phone and while we
brother
were both
Caleb?
working. Yeah, we'd both be working and just sit there
Whatever
and
happened
crap.
to?
I don't know, man. We're
don't
still
know.
trying
We
to figure
ain't
that
seen him in a
out.
while.
But he,
Guess we'll never know.
Maybe one day. We'll
he
never
had brought
know.
up to me, he's like, you heard about that cobra in Grand Prairie? And I'm like, what? And he sent me the article and we talked about it. And then a couple years ago, I was like, Caleb, did they ever find that cobra that escaped? And he was like, no, man, never found that cobra.
Yeah. Well,
So
don't have dangerous animals you're not supposed to.
yeah, I don't see
suppose.
why you would do that in the first place.
I think the worst case scenario though would be like an arachnophobia type situation. You remember that movie?
Yeah,
Where
which was
that
actually
cobra
it was
is-
actually like a
That was a cool movie.
It had comic elements.
That
to
movie
it.
scared the shit out of me. Like
Yeah,
I
dude.
still
Oh,
don't fuck with spiders to this day because of that movie.
I like
you
spiders.
imagine
R.I.P.
that West
Nandor.
African banded cobra just like slithering around there, getting all
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
North
way more
Texas
afraid of spiders than anything.
snake V word and
Oh yeah, dude.
making all kinds of hybrid
Yeah.
rattlesnake, copperhead, cobra,
Yeah.
cottonmouth
That's
babies. Like see now
getting into
that's-
we're getting into some cryptozoology.
Yeah, see,
Man, there we
Can a
go.
snake, can a double-banded cobra breed
get
with
a
copperhead?
rattlesnake pregnant.
Or a person.
Or a,
He was like, "What if it's What if it's just out there?
It all comes back
What
to
if
the
this-
snake face.
What if
Oh
the
my
snake?
God.
What if this snake is just out there effing all?
You
want
to know how this person got the snake face?
General Carville?
Ask,
Are you saying that
ask-
James Carville
ask
is
Marcus.
a snake person?
He's got snake in his family
Hey, don't
history.
call me the
He said, "Don't
cobra
call me
because I'm a
cobra
snake
because-
face.
Let's move on. People are just realizing how good Pizza Hut's hold music is.
Okay, what happened? I'm sorry, but we need to all. If this is what it if we have to put the cell phones down to bring back old school Pizza Huts
That's
and the whole salad bar and them actually
Jack-
them making the buildings to look bring that back. I don't
That
know. What
was-
do we have to do to go
that's-
back to that?
That's Jack Posobiec. They call
Well,
it Pizza
so
Hut.
you miss going into a Pizza
I-
Hut
Yeah,
like
call
a
it Pizza
restaurant?
Hut.
What happened to
nationalism.
where are the pizza? Look at all the Pizza Huts are now just small little standalone shops where you walk up and you just either
it's
order
all
on.
to go or carry. It's all carry out or delivery.
What I hate it. Oh,
So
take
you
me
want the
back.
restaurant back?
Take me back
You
to
want a
that.
Pizza Hut restaurant?
I think
Yes.
it's just the whole feel of it, the nostalgia of
Well,
it. Like
do you know why they don't do that anymore?
Oh, COVID.
nobody goes.
Oh,
Because there was the money into the overhead to do it, and the amount of customers they would get to have to maintain that.
But hear me out,
Obviously,
bro.
there's not money in it.
Tabletop video games.
somebody's got to do
Galaga?
first. We got to restructure it.
You think you get
Bring it
enough
back.
traffic, enough traction for that to be successful?
I don't know. I think you'd have to bring it back, man.
Bring it
Well,
back.
I mean,
so
maybe
they can lose
not. I
money?
mean, maybe not with all these little kids with their faces glued to iPads.
Well, what would be?
Speaking
the
of
next,
which, if you're a kid watching this, smash that like
Your
button.
iPad, smash that like
Subscribe,
button,
ring the bell.
leave a comment. All those.
so
things.
what's the next step up from a hut?
I'm just saying that
No,
I
I'm
remember.
curious.
Okay, the next step up from a hut
Yeah.
would be like
house?
a two guys
No.
pizza
No,
house.
no, I'm talking about like just
No,
forget
literally
pizza.
a step up
hut.
from a
If
hut.
there's a hut, what's
be
the
a,
next step?
okay.
A house? Is a tent a hut?
pueblo.
Same
It would
thing?
have to be a house.
A tent and a hut, or we'd say they're the same
no,
thing, right?
No, they're not the same thing.
So which one's up? Is a tent?
A tent
A
would be
hut
the bottom.
up. Yeah,
a tent would be the bottom. A hut would be
being
above.
naked outside,
So
just
a
with
yurt?
no covering, would be the bottom.
Maybe a yurt?
Pizza yurt.
Yurts?
Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? That's what we
Pizza-
have now.
No,
That's what needs to have.
No, I don't.
That's what needs
pizza
to
yurt.
have.
He's saying pizza yurt.
We'll
I
make
got
a
you,
shirt.
I got
Make
you.
that into
Yeah,
a shirt.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And
Pizza
what's
yurt.
another word for pizza?
Itza. Za.
Okay, Zalat exists, but we'll call it Zayurt,
Zayurt.
dude. All right. Book it.
Zayurt.
What's next? Malia Obama. Starbucks launches pork flavored latte in China. It's
Okay. You know
getting
what?
a pig reaction.
You over here looking
this
at me.
Isn't real.
You're looking at
It's
me
getting a pig
sideways for
reaction.
wanting to bring back Pizza Huts.
Like what
Okay, no, this
news outlet wrote that.
I don't know, but this
That's
one's...
what...
Okay, I'm looking at one here. It says Starbucks launches pork flavored latte in China, and it literally... It's pun. It's getting a pig reaction.
Pitts, would you like some KFC cheese?
That's funny, but the next article speaks to me.
Yeah,
the next one here, KFC rolls out Cheesa, a fried chicken and pizza hybrid nationwide.
I don't think I want to live here anymore.
I know. I think I want to live right outside of wherever this is being produced.
It's like, this is something Matthew would leave the house
Oh
for.
my gosh.
I'd rather not live here anymore.
Okay, dude, this might be the last article we need to do because I don't think we can top this.
He got that Al Roker.
Al Roker pops up and tries to sell me stuff, okay? You guys saw him too, right? You all saw him too? You know, he didn't just haunt my dreams, he haunts my internet screens too.
Al Roker.
Al Roker, yeah.
He shows up in my dreams, shows up on my screen.
He astrally projects himself to your house.
Wait, the new item will be available in limited locations starting February 26th.
Good thing they closed down the location.
It's already hit overseas, bro.
Yeah, well, they get everything first.
Well,
they get all overseas gets everything first. They get all the viruses before we get them. They get all the plagues. We want plagues.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, honestly, that's as good of a trending article as we're gonna get.
That's
so.
enough.
That actually might be the best trending
Dude, seriously?
So
if you guys know me,
Jesus.
Anyone who knows me, I mean, chicken's good, but if you
anything that involves
any evolutionary step of pizza in a direction that I can think is positive,
this is groundbreaking.
I think I've told you this before. I have one tattoo. I definitely do. There's another one I do want to get, and it definitely
you haven't, but I know what you're about to say.
I do want to get a slice of pizza tattoo. No doubt, that's my wife. And anyone who knows me knows that you definitely
so
I should.
let me speak on that for 1 second because for how old were you when
when I was born? I was 0.
Yeah, when he was as old as your gums and a little bit older than your teeth.
Yeah.
How old were you when we met?
12ish, 11 or 12.
Yeah, and it was like from that time till like when it was like the only thing you would ever eat. I feel like was
like
cheese
pizza,
and
still it's
no joke.
What I eat
cheese pizza and tacos with no lettuce.
Yeah,
it was like we'd order pizza or we'd have frozen beef, but it was like that was literally all like he would eat. And so I tricked Mama into or what?
I got tricked into eating hamburgers, but that we don't need to go down that.
No,
it's traumatic memory.
Awesome.
Either way, I am to get a slice of pizza tattoo one day, and ask my wife. She thinks it's a good idea because it's that much a part of my life.
It's seriously a part of
it. It is 100% because that's what I actually thought about having pizzas on reserve when you came over for Caleb's party. Because I was like, I think Matthew
everything there is to know.
I was like, I don't know if Matthew likes all this other food, but I know he likes Totino's pizzas cooked to perfection.
Dude, I've got a skill set.
Can't let it fall.
We need to move on because last week I got to lead a segment about something that I found very interesting and was passionate about, and I confused myself and probably a lot of whoever was listening. Well, coming up next, Sir Michael has a little something to talk about, and I'll let you just hit the ground running.
That sounds great. We'll take a little break. Right. So listen to the track.
Track it up.
There would be palaces, and so there were, composed within.
And we're back from a pleasant break, which was refreshing, and I'm immediately going to let my good, amazing brother here, Sir Michael, talk about whatever it is he has for us.
Yes, first of all, hello, thank you, and welcome. Thank you, Matthew, for that little introduction, and welcome to our dojo. As you can see, we're both in the correct attire for the subject matter.
Saunas.
Yes, saunas.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, it's going to get hot and heavy, guys. I'm going to tell you that. So wherever you are, make sure you have breathable clothing on because you're going to sweat.
Or no clothing on.
That would be preferable.
At least a rash guard.
Yes, we're going to need that.
Butter your nipples.
Clip your fingernails. Use deodorant.
So I'm going to talk about martial arts. I'm going to kind of talk about how I don't consider, full disclaimer, I do not consider myself to be necessarily per se a martial artist. My approach to martial arts has always been a jack of all trades approach, where I'll get into my background, but that's more or less like my approach towards it, and I just have my own thoughts on kind of how people look at martial arts now. and kind of more or less how martial arts has just become MMA. And nobody really looks at the more traditional stuff.
MMA, then it's not shit.
Yeah, and nobody really looks at the other side of things. And I just think
I'm an idiot, so just tell me, what does MMA actually even stand for?
So MMA stands for Mixed Martial Arts.
Makes sense.
So it's supposed to be an amalgamation of different arts, whatever they may be. But it really just ends up becoming and getting boiled down to Muay Thai, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. Some boxing, but you can also apply in Muay Thai. They box as well, so it's kicking and punching, wrestling and jiu-jitsu.
Well, where's the separation between wrestling and jiu-jitsu?
So wrestling, the separation would be there's really no submissions per se in wrestling. You have to go off of the way it's scored is off of pinning and getting your opponent's shoulders pinned to the mat for a set amount of time.
It's the submission.
The difference would be that wrestlers tend to work for like the dominant position. They're going to be like on top. They want to control the pace.
BJJ has the same goal too.
Well, it does,
but with submission being the ultimate.
Correct.
The jiu-jitsu guy is being.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the wrestler his aim is to pin you. The jiu-jitsu guy, his aim is to submit you. Okay. Whether it's through a series of holds. Wrestlers, there aren't necessarily submissions. They're positions you will get in that are very uncomfortable. Okay. But their aim isn't. That's not what their point system and their things are scored on. It's not scored on making your opponent submit. It's simply scored on did his shoulders touch? Did that?
Yeah. Touching his shoulders, exposing the back.
It's not scored in the same way. So that would be the difference there. But they are both grappling. They are grappling arts.
Components they share, but that's
absolutely. Okay. They share the fact that they both take place on the ground.
Okay.
So my background, in a sense, with martial arts is ever since I was a kid. It's been mostly a lot of it was spurred on by the guy on the couch. He would come home with books and stuff from the library, and when we would go to the library, at that point, I would start to look for them. And also another big influence in my life was my grandfather. He was a boxer.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned him before.
Yep, he was a Marine Corps All-Service champion. My uncle on my mom's side was a second or third degree black belt, something like that. In Jun-Ri Taekwondo.
Really?
So Jun-Ri, if you want to pull him up, for anybody who might be watching, I don't even really know how to. If you just type in Taekwondo, Jun-Ri will probably come up.
Yeah.
But he was really one of the first people to bring Taekwondo to the United States.
Jun.
You'll see.
Junkie.
No.
Okay. No.
I don't know. It's not June, June. It'd
be like Jun.
Yeah. Jun-Ri.
Okay, so Jhoonrhee.
Yes. Okay. My uncle Don, my mom's brother, actually trained under him.
He's a Chinaman.
He was one of the first to bring. Exactly. That's not the preferred nomenclature, dude.
Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature, dude.
But no, that's the guy who brought it here, and my uncle Don got to train under him, and so that was also another reason that I was interested. One of the big things that I just want to be full disclosure, the big thing that got me into wanting to do martial arts and really just hooked me was Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Walker, I have AIDS.
Yeah. Haley Joel Osment had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
But
what's wrong with the color of this guy's gi?
It's yellow, that's bro. More like it's a yellow.
Yes,
he needs to wash it.
Sport.
It's yellow. Is all I'm saying is the problem with it.
You don't like that?
It means chicken.
What do you think about? Oh, I see. You think it
I think it's racist.
Sometimes the curtains are just blue.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just think
you're reading. I think you're reading too much.
Okay,
into
keep
it.
going.
It's like
interpretation. So that was the guy that my uncle Don trained under. So then another big inspiration was Chuck Norris and Walker, Texas Ranger, which led to Bruce Lee and all of that, and those all of his movies. Like my dad, thank you so much for letting me watch all those kung fu things. But
even though he wasn't down for it, Daddy wasn't a big kung fu guy.
So then I had that was like kind of my inspiration for it, and I unfortunately never really, as a kid, I didn't get to participate in martial arts. But then once
Mommy
I got,
wouldn't let you take karate.
we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Between all the kids and as expensive as martial arts were, they weren't reasonable.
Yeah, that's true.
They're all very expensive, and they
Yeah.
wanted you to sign guaranteed like 6 months contracts. And when there's 4 kids
Dude.
and all 4 of them want to go punch and kick people, so you're not looking at $100 a kid. You're looking at $400.
Even as adults, whenever you ask
Yeah.
me, there's some.
So we didn't get to do them because it was so expensive, and they already knew. If I got to do martial arts, well, Chris has been wanting to do martial arts,
Yeah.
and he's 9 years older
the
than
baby
you.
boy gets what he wants.
So shut up. No, so I didn't.
Yeah.
It was like you don't get
He's
to
like,
do it
let
because
your brother beat you up. That's all.
And-
I'm
No,
saying.
and that's
Exactly.
pretty much what we did. Like,
Yeah.
and that was the training was trial by. It was Chris being like, "Hey, let me try this," and poof, and I'd
Mikey
get
kept
flipped on
growing.
my head. So CTE. If I have that, it's his issue.
I don't think I really
but-
hit you in the head that much.
No, well, it wasn't you hitting me in
Caleb.
the head. It
That
was
was
it was the
Caleb.
earth. It was the earth. But
Oh, the mother. Yes, the mother did.
no, so that was my like kind of interest and whatnot.
Okay.
So then I ended up getting involved finally when I was about 15. My dad put me in a boxing gym after harping
Really?
on him for a long time.
I didn't know that.
I said, man, I was like, I want to go, I want to train. And so he put me in a gym
Because the
down
other
the
kids
road.
were old enough to be gone, so
Exactly.
they didn't have to worry about them
It
complaining
didn't matter.
about
Yeah.
not getting to do it.
So I was 15 and my dad was like, whatever. So he let me go join the
Shut up,
boxing
boy.
gym down off of Walnut Hill. And I boxed there from like the time I was for probably 2-3 years, I was pretty
Really?
consistent, like
Yeah.
every day.
2 or 3 years?
Consistent.
Yeah,
I don't know. You
it was.
did
It
that
was.
much.
It was.
So, but I
well, he
stopped
was
when I was
still
about
too young
19.
for you to be hanging
Okay.
So
out
from
with him.
15 to 19 was those times that I boxed.
Okay,
Like,
cool.
For 2 of those years, it was pretty strict, like every day or so.
And
Like-
actually, the dude that commented on the videos, Jake,
Yeah.
Jake actually came
Yeah.
to watch him fight. one
Yeah, in
time.
2009,
Wow.
I fought in the Golden Gloves, and Jake pulled up and
Yeah.
actually went
Jake
and
and his
supported.
mom
So shout
were
out to
actually
Jake.
there.
Yeah,
I
so
feel
Jake
that
pulled
means a
up.
lot when you see someone pull up.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that
it really
you got
did.
Back, dude. It really does.
So it
Oh,
made me
yeah.
feel a lot worse
Jake
whenever
been
I
down.
lost
Get
in
your
front
ass
of all
kicked.
those people, and I had to pack
it
my
was-
shit and go home. I had to go back to the dojo and train.
He did great. It was literally
Yeah.
like right at the end.
Oh,
That was,
it was
it was
fixed.
It was
no,
rigged.
No, it was just it was the last, like from an outside observation.
It was
point.
boring. It was the
Well,
last
no,
fight.
it was great because what they do 3 rounds. It was literally
Yeah, it's
in the
3
last
rounds.
like 30 seconds.
Sounds like
Three
ticket
1
fight
minute
night.
rounds.
It was the last
ticket
like
fight night.
15 seconds, whatever. I mean, there wasn't much time left in the
Okay.
fight, and he got hit. He didn't go down, but I don't
Alright,
think
that's
he went
cool.
down.
No, I
He
went
got-
down and then came back up, but
But
then
he got-
they
he
just
got
stopped it. They
rocked
were like,
and-
"Nah,"
yeah.
and then that was it.
Yeah,
so
I
it
played
never didn't
football
get
when
to
I was
go.
little, and I scored touchdowns. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
So either way, so it was like I actually got to box, and then I boxed up until like 18, 19.
Okay.
I had had a better job at that point, was able to go afford to be able to do an actual organized martial art. So then at that point,
Yeah, all the
I
people
went,
there bought weed from you, so it was like, it was great.
No, I was buying weed
Joking?
from them. So I ended up going and getting involved with the jiu-jitsu place in Dallas, Machado Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And I trained over there for a little bit, and as far as I understand, did you also have some?
Yeah, so that's I have I'm not near as extensive background as you do. So you mentioned wrestling, right? So in high school, I did wrestling 1 year just to try it out. Didn't care for it. I threw up all the time, and I was like, it's not for me. So I didn't care for it much. Went to graduated high school, went to college, did all that, and then after I graduated, one of my groomsmen, Sir Billy, we thought BJJ was just awesome. We're like, hey, once we're adults now, it's one of those things when we were younger, like, hey, once we're old enough to go and afford to take like a martial art and become a black belt, let's do it. That'd be awesome,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, we're like, okay, yeah, let's freaking do it. So we actually, at Machado, we trained at Machado. And like you said, with the kids' contracts, I don't remember if it was like a 6-month or a year contract that we did. And man, after college, doing that right away is what spurred me into like getting and staying in shape. Like
Fighting shape.
And in high school I was, and in college I ran, but not near as much as I do. But when I got into BJJ and that workout that I got there, that like spurred me into just from then on basically being at where I am now.
Well, it's
and
because you know what it was. You
I
understood what it was
like to
like
be like a
you have no
level
gas, and like if this was real.
Yeah, and it was just the fitness of it. But I ended up after, my contract ran out. I didn't resign just because I think it's cool. But man, I felt sore and beat up every day.
Really?
Like, yeah, dude. I felt like it was. I really was good work and it was cool, but I just felt like me and my body. But Bill, just for Billy's sake, if he ever gets this episode, like we signed these contracts that aren't cheap, and I think Billy stopped. No, Billy signed a longer contract.
Billy
than me
did. Billy did it for a little while.
He didn't know. We started together, and Billy's like, "Well, yeah, we're committed. Sure, I think I'll do the year-long one, you know." And I think after maybe 6 or 7 months, we both stopped going, but he had to keep paying, and he did. And there was this one coach or whatever, I don't know what you would call him there, but
a coach or instructor.
Instructor, right? His last name was Beluska. And him and his wife were there. They weren't the main people at all. And he's like, whenever we were meeting him to see about joining, he said, "Yeah, I'm actually a black belt, in BJJ, but I didn't, earn my black belt here. I was from Florida with my wife, so." I wanted it to go through the whole process and become a black belt again, learning under Machado. So we're like, okay, whatever. This is just a guy who didn't look like he was a hardcore guy at all.
Did he have long hair?
Kinda, yeah.
Did he have red hair?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But either way, he taught the kids class. We know that much.
I'm almost positive he was the same dude that was there whenever I know what you're talking about.
Beluska. I remember Billy. Saying we were Beluska was a long time running joke. If we got screwed over,
that's hilarious.
Committed to something for a long term that we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Bill's got Beluska pretty good, but so yeah, no, I thought it was awesome. I liked it a lot for submissions. I've always liked, like when I wasn't UFC at all, I like submissions more than knockouts. I just think they're cooler to see somebody give up versus them being struck. And it's cool that they were able to knock them unconscious, but I like the thought of like somebody in their mind giving up.
Watching the chess match.
Yeah, I like watching them say, there. "Okay, I give up."
Like there's no way I can get out of this.
Not like, "Oh, they got a lucky hit on me," or "Oh no, this." It's like they got me into complete control for an extended period of time, and I'm like, I'm giving up. So
yeah,
but yeah, that's about really the extent of my personal journey.
No, that's really cool, and I'm glad that you like have some kind of background in it, and so you've trained it for a little bit and kind of know what it's like, and it's also cool that you trained at the same place as I did, and I signed a 6-month contract, and it was like $150 a month or something at the time, and so after that I couldn't keep going, but for 6 months I did go. I went to it came out to being like 3 classes a week. Is what I was going to.
Yeah, because you could go to.
You could exactly.
Many
pretty much go like
right.
Yes,
so
the only ones
got your bang for your buck.
I didn't get to make. I never belt tested, so I stayed a white belt. No, I stayed a white belt.
We belt tested, got our first stripe, but that was it.
Oh, see, that was the thing that was hilarious. I never once belt tested. I had no stripes on my belt.
It's a trick.
And I would go in there and roll with these guys. And I kid you not, this is not a. I'm not.
Rolling
is
a term that for people have no idea. That's
rolling is the same as
rolling is sparring for jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Or just practice.
Yeah, rolling is the same as what he just said.
But while you're on ecstasy.
Yes.
Okay.
So rolling is it's sparring for jiu-jitsu. You roll around, you see who can submit who, you see who can control
You're honing your skills.
Yeah, so
a little bit of one-on-one.
Whenever I had never got to belt test, but I did get to roll all the time, and I ended up I rolled a handful of purple belts there. And I could really give.
What is the belt like? You come in off the street, you're a white belt. What's the belt progression? Like,
it's white, yellow, white, white, blue, purple, brown, black in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So I was coming in. I rolled.
Whites are at the bottom in this ranking.
Yes, and I rolled. I was submitting. I had submitted a couple of purple belts.
It's one of the only things that the whites are in the bottom in.
And so, since the fact that it was kind of interesting that like what was funny is that I would roll with guys, and they always gauged you. They were pretty. And first, before I go any further, I have my own reservations about Machado in their jiu-jitsu place and kind of just like how they run it not talking aside from that, as what they teach and the guys that come out of there, I have respect for them. Okay. They're great. They're all very formidable.
Is it the business
what
side?
I learned a lot from. Technically, I learned from Carlos by proxy because I learned from the guys that he had trained.
Right.
But I personally didn't get to have much engagement out of him. And I have my own perception of him based off of as close as I could get to him. And unfortunately, yes, Machado. Okay. And unfortunately, the way I felt is though I ended up getting looked past because I was very good. And I'll say it, and I don't care if people are going to watch this and say, oh, this and that. To this day, I haven't rolled in years. But I guarantee you, if you're a black belt, blue belt, purple belt, I don't care how dirty it is, I would give you more of a tough time than you would assume. I'm pretty good. And so it was fun for me to not have any stripes on my belt with all that being said.
Roll with these
and these guys would just slowly build up and they'd be like, they would actually get to the point where they realize like, okay, how good's this guy? And then they're like, oh, he's a little good. And then eventually they're like, oh, let me try and submit him. And I would like at that point just wear like, they would eventually get me submitted, but I would wear them down, and they'd fight for it. And one guy finally sat up one day after we rolled together, and was just like, "Man, he's like, you do really good." And this is, with all this being said, I'm getting to a point. He was saying that the reason he felt like I did so good was because I never panicked. When most everybody else, whenever they had another person on top of them, they would panic. I always gave my back to people. I was have it. I don't care. Like I'll get on my back. You can get in my guard and do whatever, and I'll work from there because I've worked based off of people. Gotcha. And so it was like, that was like...
You already knew you were at a disadvantage, so you weren't going to try and win offensively.
No, because I had always... Because I was going to say, like, I always grew up fighting with my brother Chris and Caleb and all of his and all of their friends, so I was used to being smaller, so I was never scared of being on the bottom. Yeah. And most people are...
So you are bottom.
Yes. So most people were scared of being in... It's like being scared of swimming. I wasn't scared of swimming. Most people were just scared of that. So guys like trying in jiu-jitsu would try and grab you and just sit on you and think that, oh, that's almost enough, then I'll submit it.
He's going to panic.
Yeah, and I would just lay there and make them do something, and eventually they would just get tired of it, and then I'd fall into something. So either way, with all that being said, I did jiu-jitsu for the 6 months until my contract was up, and I was like, I'm done paying.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't too happy with that experience in a sense. To say what you said, it was more or less the business side. And like I said, you kind of get overlooked. And I realized that it was like this wasn't what I was looking for on a level of – it wasn't what I was looking for on the level of connecting with somebody that's instructing me. And I just thought it was something different when I went into it.
He's using his brand to attract people,
basically. He might have had more of an idealistic type view of it. And from what I understand, I never went to any of the classes or anything, but I know what he had relayed to me was it felt a lot like, he would come in, he would be like, okay, this is what we're going to do today. Here's the move. He would demonstrate it. And then he'd be like, y'all pair off and just practice it.
Yeah. And so there wasn't much engagement.
You knew if you were like, I know how to do this already. Like, what do I, belt test, spend this money, and then we'll teach you some other
business
shit.
And it was almost like he was using his brand name.
It's exactly. It's the same it's the same way as using like Gracies and stuff. They just use the last
the cousin
name.
of the Gracie, right?
They were. I think they were like. Yeah, they were. And I know this is funny, like that. I'm somewhat bad mouthing them, and also I trained with them. But yeah, I do believe they have a relationship with the Gracies. They're also another family, a big family in Brazil. For
I don't think you're bad mouthing. Carlos think you're just giving your honest opinion of your experience.
Yeah, because again, I'm even going out of my way to say that it's like a lot of the guys they have that come out of there were great. I technically I learned a lot of things by proxy through Carlos from other guys. I just didn't personally get to train with him.
You weren't getting the level of engagement.
Okay. But for after that, once my contract and everything was up there, I was like, I want to go into something a little different. So then at that point, I went into Russian Sistema. I trained Russian Sistema for probably the longest
I never even heard that word till you were taking it. Just to let you know, like I didn't know that was the thing. So if there's brief synopsis on
a brief synopsis on what Russian Sistema is that technically it is not. I got the pleasure of training under a guy named Sonny Puzikas, Puzikas.
Okay,
and he explained Sistema to me. I used to look at it as a martial art and categorize it as a martial art, and he more or less said that it was a combat methodology,
almost like Krav Maga.
Yes, it's sort of So yes, very similar because again, it's not meant to be an artful thing. It's not meant to have
not necessarily a technique. somebody does this, you do that.
Yeah, and so that's what Russian Sistema was, and I got to do that for a long time, and that was so much fun, man. I got to train with
self-defense in its purest form.
It really was, because it wasn't, and that's why it's kind of funny. It gets looked at in a bad way because of how people, they either train it or videos they watch of, like, the guy Michael
People
Rabko.
Will see somebody doing a drill out of context,
like they'll see something else in, like, Michael Rabko and things like that, and they'll judge it based off of those things, off of purely what they're seeing. And so that one, for me, it was like I learned a lot from that art, and I'm going to get into why I'm bringing all this up. So then after I trained that for a while I was still doing that, I went and trained Aikido.
Okay, I've heard that word before, but briefly. I just know Steven Seagal. That's what I think of when
exactly.
I think of Aikido.
And that's exactly
it's like a form of judo, using someone's momentum and energy against them, right?
Very similar to judo. Very similar to judo principle. Yes, you're not wrong. It is very similar to judo, and it's like it has roots in that, in a sense.
Right.
And one of the guys I actually trained with at this place, he got into it because he was a judo guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Aikido is yeah, like what you said, it's like using somebody else's force against them, not resisting. Again, the main driving factor, people know Aikido through Steven Seagal, and so it gets written off as total garbage because you see Steven Seagal is your main poster guy, in a sense.
Yeah, he's the
and
poster child.
Yeah, and not only that, but really, like, I guess I can kind of go into why I'm bringing all this up, and my approach to it is because it's like I feel like, having done all these different martial arts and suspended judgment and just done the art for what it is, and participated in it, I feel like there is a lot that people are missing by automatically writing them off without ever having really participated.
So what do you mean they're writing them off?
Well, they look at it like they'll sit there and they'll just judge again. Like they'll look at.
This would never work. If somebody throws a punch at me, I'm not gonna.
So we're saying it's because they're watching UFC and then they hear about these other things and they think, oh, the UFC guys don't practice these.
So,
these are BS.
For instance, if you'd like, you can, if you want, you could bring up a video of an Aikido technique on YouTube for people that might be watching. And in this Aikido technique, no matter what technique you bring up, the Aikido technique is going to look absurd. You're going to look at it and you're going to say, there is absolutely no way that somebody could do this to me. I don't care what technique you pull up. And I mean, this is the thing. I'm not making a point saying, like, I have a point for all of this.
But you're not making it to try to trap somebody and be like, haha, here's where you're, you know.
So what are we looking at here? So it's basically...
It doesn't matter what we're looking at. Yeah. And my point being is that people see this and they're like, so you're saying that if I come up and grab your wrist and try and punch you, that you're going to be able to get out of it almost the way this guy does. I've never seen... I don't know what video we're even watching right now.
Yeah, you just said search video, so I clicked the first one.
Yeah, no, so he's
So guys grabbed another guy's wrist.
So here, go back and I'll have you type in something different on
and
here.
then be very descriptive of what we're watching.
You can understand, like, the principle he's trying to explain. Like,
this guy's videos are perfect. Kodagashi. So this guy will show a technique right here. This guy's good.
So if we start with ai hanmi, kata te tori. Again,
what he's
I want to
explaining
step
by ai hanmi is
and
the
away
feet that
from
are
the
forward
attack.
in the position they're standing in.
Irimi tenkan. I'm going to bring the hand in front of me. My free hand is going to rest right on top of my partner's. Take a look. I've got my thumb right in between the ring and pinky finger. My finger's inside the palm. As I step back and my partner turns to face me, I want to match my fingers right on top of my partner's and point all of this at the floor as I move. Turn the hips, fingers down to the floor.
So now he's going to show it in full speed to the people that aren't watching.
Make sure I've got the hand
very
position.
slowly, and he was explaining how the technique is done.
One more step back and
now
match
he's going to
fingers
go
to
through
fingers.
a bit faster. He's showing it
all
from
of
the
that
back.
straight at the floor.
And then for the final time, he's going to go through his full. Now watch it. This final one, he's going to go through full speed.
Irimi tenkan.
So he's showing how, and so people would watch this and they're saying, "Yeah, you're full of shit." They're saying you're full of shit. There's no way that I can come up and grab your wrist and you're going to flip me like this.
Basically, he's squeezing his wrist at a certain spot so hard he's he's leading the guy to move, and then as the guy's moving, he's using that momentum to make him flip.
And then he's trying to affect his posture with doing so. So my point being is that no matter what, that's why I said, like, any of these guys' videos that you pull up to watch any of his techniques, my point being is that people see the technique itself, and they think that that thing itself, that there's 120 techniques, and that's it. That's what people think. And it's like, no, they miss the entire forest through the trees, in the sense that they're not understanding the principle that all of Aikido is working off of space, timing, and being sensitive and being aware enough of what your opponent is trying to do.
Right.
And so there's a whole nother, there's this entire level to it that's totally not ignored and not utilized, because people simply look at, how do I make Kuragashi work in the street?
Yeah.
How can I make, some dude grabs my arm. You can't flip him on his head, because you'll just have some jackasses.
What happens
so
if he
like
punches
you see
you in
so
the
many
face
you
when
see
you do
so
that?
many videos of like guys that'll kung fu guys or aikido guys that'll get challenged by MMA guys and go to a gym and try and compete in this same sphere. And it's like, it's totally, whoever is going to do that is a jackass, and I'm sorry that they're that misled that they've also misinterpreted the own art they're training in, to think that they can go fight an MMA guy using what their formal art and the way it's interpreted and all these techniques. They think that they go, and so other people view that and they say, well, yeah, all of these things are bullshit. Aikido's bullshit. Kung Fu's bullshit.
So they're never really grasping the whole philosophical reason for its existence.
They look at the
what
technique and they completely miss the underlying
See an example of it and they say, oh, that looks like BS. They watch two other guys fighting out in some other martial art. It's like, okay, that looks like something in real life might end up happening. It's like they're missing the physics, like the high level.
They're missing the subtleties that each one of them has to offer. And this isn't meant to be like, I'm a connoisseur of wine and my palate is super fine and I can taste something better than you.
Yeah.
This is meant to, so for what I'm, again, an example, I love this subject, and anybody who feels willing to comment or challenge whatever I have to say, I'd love it. I welcome it. Let's do it.
We'll do it next episode. Yeah.
So my example for this is being, People don't know what's there until one guy sees what's there, or he's able to understand what's there and apply it to something, and then people see the value in it. So, for example, Lyoto Machida. Lyoto Machida was a karate guy. Okay. He trained extensively in karate for, I don't know, we might want to look this up. I'm kind of interested, but he might have been also, like your boy who you also sent me, a Kyokushin karate guy. I could be wrong, but he might have been. Nuts. He might have been Kyokushin.
No, he was. Wasn't his dad brought karate to Brazil?
Something like that.
Yeah, his dad was like one of the, because
Shotokan. He was a Shotokan karate guy.
I was about to say, that's what Oh no, Liddell was a Kempo.
Kempo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking.
So either way, my point being is that before Lyoto Machida graced the UFC with his presence and the world, people largely looked at karate as useless bullshit.
Kind of like the joke I made last week about kindergartners.
Literally, I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
So the same way you made the joke about being like, yeah, kindergartners do karate, people look at it because all they see is they see these real strong movements and stuff, and they're like, that's bullshit. You telling me I come at you, you're gonna do like this?
It's funny the arc it took from like the 70s, the karate movies, everybody wanted to know it. Once the UFC came around and people were like, they would see those guys
like it was kung fu,
and then it was like, that's why nobody was on it until Machida came in there, and then Machida made it work.
Yeah, and so my point, exactly, that was my point with bringing that up, is that it was like before anybody, prior to, that's exactly what I was trying to say, is that prior to anything else happening, karate was always viewed as bullshit until Machida came along and he understood how to take what he learned his whole life and take the aspects of managing the distance, how to close the distance, and the angles of his strikes and how he moved in and out. Right. And for me, it was, I'm not going to lie, it's like, I mean, again, I know I'm going to, be kind of bold here. For me, it's kind of annoying.
I'll kick his ass.
No, for me, it's kind of annoying when I hear dudes like Joe Rogan, who I really admire, and I have nothing but respect for. He knows a mass amount of about martial arts.
Shout out Joe Rogan.
But my thing about it is that it's like, I feel like he as well is missing it. It's like, how can you know all of this about martial arts, but then not even see it before somebody like Machida has to come along and show it to you?
More studied on
like
everything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like that's what I mean, because he interviewed a guy one time about Aikido, and like I said, that poor bastard had no idea either. He's sitting there thinking, well, no, I mean, this is Aikido, and he's trying to defend it from the aspect of how this technique is born, how I'm using this technique. He's trying to defend it simply from that aspect. He himself, I don't really understands that, like, there's a deeper level to just the principle of what it is about blending and being sensitive to what your opponent is trying to do. And there's a whole other world there that if these martial artists would give it, if these MMA guys and stuff, which really is almost, again, just becoming 3 practices, they're not even blending everything.
It's no longer a mixed martial art. It was like you literally have kids brought up in, back in the Gap, it was like, I'm a boxer and I'm going to fight a karate guy, or I'm a wrestler and I'm going to fight a BJJ guy.
Yeah, it's like every one of them's got the black belt in BJJ, and everyone is doing some form of Muay Thai or something.
MMA is its own martial art now.
Is it really?
It is. No, he's not wrong. There are gyms that just open up that it just says MMA outside, and that they advertise as MMA. They don't
actually...
score
you they just in a ranking of,
it's just you show up and you just show up in like some shorts and a t-shirt or whatever, and you get trained on all these different things.
Like CrossFit.
And at that point it comes down to then you have to pick the person you're learning it from, in a sense, based off of, well, how many fights have you had? How many well, you're not just going to go train under some dude that hasn't, so that's a whole nother thing. But it's like,
they need a resume.
Yeah, exactly. For most for MMA things, it's like, I mean, if you're going to go train under somebody, you're going to want them to be like battle proven. You're going to want to go to somebody like, again, with Machado.
Like, I couldn't open up Machado BJJ studio and people like, oh, did you study in the pits?
Yeah,
you could.
Yeah. But it's like, I think like if you, for instance, Machado, I'm pretty sure was a gold medalist or something. Like he was an established guy.
Yeah.
That was the draw of going to train with him.
Exactly.
Dude was that guy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so that's what attracts you to go train with stuff. And so that's like with the MMA things, with those gyms.
So all these other martial arts are missing that.
Well, and
that spokesperson that's put it on the map.
Sort of.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. Well,
but to get back to what you were saying, you were talking about like guys like Joe Rogan may miss the forest through the trees on stuff like that because of the subtleties and stuff. And it's funny because it reminded me of you tag him in it, Alan Watts.
There you
like
go.
Like the joke you told the other day, it's Joe Rogan meeting the Pope. What'd you think about the Pope?
Yeah, he saw it from his perspective.
That was a crazy interview, by the way.
He saw it through his lens, and so it's like when he watched it, and
a stand-up comic.
Yeah, exactly.
He saw it through his lens of
I'm an MMA commentator.
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. I'm a high-level taekwondo guy. Whatever. But
it's like he's a color commentator, but he has no experience in this color.
He views it through the lens of would this work in the UFC? And if it doesn't, then it's bullshit.
Yes, and unfortunately, my whole point was saying a lot of this is to say that, in a sense, is that so many of these martial arts that are out there are either dying or
being pushed.
They're dying because it's like it's also the fault of the people that are training them and the fault of the people that are teaching them, in the sense of not understanding. You can't. That's what I mean about people like try and go to these gyms or there's some, say, I don't know, I'm not going to give an example, but say there's some guy who's just out there teaching kung fu and he believes in it, and then all of a sudden some guy starts commenting and he's like, I'll come to your gym and I'll beat your ass, and then all of a sudden he's like, yeah dude, do it, whatever, and the MMA guy pulls up at his gym, and what does he do? He beats his ass. Why does he beat his ass? Well, he beats his ass because it's like you're training, the guy himself is not understanding the nectar of the kung fu that he's training and what he's even trying to do.
Right.
And it's like there's more subtleties there than a lot of them can just be health benefits.
Yeah, you're almost looking like forget the fighting aspect of martial arts, which everyone breaks it down to. You're looking at it more as like an education in a school of thought and philosophy.
And I was gonna say before, so exactly, and this is a quote that Chris has said to me a lot. This is where I got this quote from. I heard it from him. But it's the comparison of MMA versus any martial art, Aikido, Sistema, Kung Fu, anything. You would just always hear, oh yeah, that guy'd get beat up by an MMA guy, or this guy. And what I'm trying to say is that it's like, the quote is, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its entire life believing that it's a failure.
That's an Einstein quote. That's not a Chris quote.
No, but you're the one I know that you're not Albert Einstein. I'm aware of that.
I just didn't want.
But you're the one that I'm just saying a nod as to who I heard it from, because a lot of people run around and they tell jokes that aren't their jokes, and they act like they came up with a joke. So I heard it from him, and that's what I feel like applies to this thing. If you're looking, it's simply also too, we're a very much seeing is believing kind of society.
Yeah.
And if I don't see this martial art be able to work like that in a controlled environment, then I think it's trash. And it's like,
right, because they basically break down its quality down to fighting.
Yes,
like if
a competition.
See, a competition, which you're saying step outside of thinking if this one could beat that one. Just look at it on its own and the benefits in its teachings, because there's a lot to be gleaned from that on its own. Just forget, could this beat that? But more, what does this teach, and how can I apply it to more than just the physical aspect of it?
Exactly, because that again, I feel like, because what we're ending, if people go back to that, what we're ending up with is this synthetic mixed martial artist. Where back in the day, that is what it was. It was like people going and exploring these different arts, diving into it.
Robots have been fighting for years.
And understanding and pulling out like what was useful. That's what it's like Bruce Lee or somebody said it. It's like take what's useful and take what is useful and discard what isn't.
Yeah, that is Bruce Lee.
It's like you take these things that are useful from these, and you understand what's useful there, and you discard what's not. For instance, what's useful in Aikido is learning the timing, the distance. I'm telling you,
developing that sensitivity.
If you have the chance, go seek out a good Aikido dojo. And what I mean by that is, for instance, like I had the pleasure of training with a place here in Dallas. If you're in Dallas and you're interested in Aikido, go to Aikido of Dallas. Yeah, those people are incredibly welcoming. It's a nonprofit. The dude there, he trained under Koichi Tohei Sensei. Koichi Tohei Sensei trained under Morihei Ueshiba. He was the founder of it. He's O Sensei. So there's O Sensei, Koichi Tohei, and then Bob Mason, who teaches over there.
Okay.
Point is that it's like, whenever I went there and you see their black belts and stuff, and the shit they're doing,
white belts, they spray painted black.
Yeah,
they keep the same belt. It's a non-profit.
Exactly. But like, my point is that you go there and you watch these guys that are high level, and there's a dude there. There was a guy. I mean, he's still there, but his name's Omar. And this dude probably weighs
good stuff.
No, Omar. No.
Omar coming.
Omar is like 240 pounds, 6'3", 6'4", and hits the ground like a feather. This dude, you'll see him do all of these things or whatever.
His body control,
and it is not a fucking joke. Yeah. The amount of control this man has over his body, and like not only that, but the sensitivity of being able to understand where the person is trying to take him.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of an analogy from like a musician's perspective in this. Probably isn't even the best analogy, but I was just trying to think, okay, maybe it's kind of like as a guitarist, there's tons of different styles of guitar, you know? There's classical, flamenco, bossa nova, jazz. There's all these different styles, right? But a lot of times people will go and see who can play the fastest, the best guitarist. Who's shredding? Oh, the shredding? Oh, that's a lot better than that classical guitarist. That's a lot better than that bossa nova guy who's doing some slow and rhythmic. But it's like, no, they're both two different things, and there's a lot of skill and beauty behind what both of them are doing. But a lot of people on the outside just see the guy shredding, do an Eruption solo by Van Halen, and they think, oh, that's the best. So whenever they're missing out. Well, all the beauty and all the intricacies that the others have to teach and even enjoy, you know?
It's about the focus. Like, the problem arises in the focuses. Like, there's 4 main focuses of the martial arts. Like, you have the sport aspect, which is the MMA, where the competition. I want to learn this to compete in a sport.
Okay.
You have the self-defense aspect.
Okay.
Of, you know,
competition,
I'm doing,
self-defense.
Well, yeah, which are two totally separate things.
Right.
And which.
So what are 3 and 4?
That, the like physical well-being.
Okay, so workout, health benefits,
and then as a spiritual path.
Okay.
You know, and
so spiritual.
So where the problem arises is that, and this is not me. This is Mark McYoung. Like Mark Animal McYoung. You can look him up. He's written tons of books on the subject. But the problem arises when you have somebody that is maybe a high level sport karate fighter,
right?
Does karate tournaments, is, you know, a high level black belt, and decides they want to make a career out of teaching karate. The problem is maybe there's not a lot of people that want to come learn that, and so they put a sign in the window that says self-defense. And maybe this karate guy has never been tested, like in a real life situation.
Right.
So he's teaching somebody what he genuinely believes is going to better them.
Yeah. And he's not wrong.
You know, and he's not wrong. I mean, because he's very good at it and he's studied it for so long that maybe he can make it work. But he can't necessarily teach you how to make it work. And so what happens is that somebody will go to a place that it's like, I've been going to these self-defense classes and I've learned how to do this, this, and this, and then something happens and they get their fucking shit handed to them.
Right.
And then they're like, all this shit was bullshit. It was like, no, what it is that you were on the, you know, it's like, if you want to learn self-defense or something, you know, to defend yourself, you need to go seek out that type of whatever.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of times somebody will go train in something like Kung Fu.
It's not designed with self-defense in mind.
Well,
like BJJ is. BJJ is almost fundamentally designed with self-defense in mind.
But there's a ton of things in Kung Fu.
Yeah.
In Aikido, in fucking, like all these arts that people are like, oh, blah, blah, blah. That if you know how to apply that underlying principle, if you can see it beyond the surface level, where it's like, you know, something as simple as like, and profound as he who controls the elbow controls the fight. And it's like, and you really don't understand what that means until you fucking, like, you go down that. It was like you have to be at a very high level before you understand. It's like,
and I was gonna say, like, I'm sorry, like,
no, you're good.
One of the things I was gonna say is that, like, going back to kind of in a sense of just to show the point I'm trying to make with some of this stuff is, like, one thing I heard that was very interesting, because again, I'll go back and say my approach to martial arts has always been, at first when I started out, I thought it would be awesome to just become a black belt. Right. I was like, I just want to be a black belt.
That was my appeal too. That sounds cool.
Like,
how long?
The fuck don't want to tell somebody I'm a black belt?
And how many?
Don't mess with me.
And everybody you would go ask all these places, I guarantee you call any of them, one of the number one questions they get: how long does it take to become a black belt?
Yeah.
How much
and
money
I would
you
even
got?
ask some stuff, and it just depends. It's like you can't. Who knows? But the point is that it's like I always wanted to go into it with being a black belt. And then I got into it and I started learning something. I'm like, no, this is cool, but like I want to learn something else. And so I have this jack of all trades approach to it. And so I've done a little bit. While I haven't done, you know, all of it. I'll note this: I've never became anything other than a white belt, because personally I believe that it's like, if I'm not going to fully dedicate myself to this, what's the point? I've never belt tested, never done anything of that. People, even in Aikido, they'd be like, why don't you test? I'm like, I don't want to.
It doesn't change the benefits that you gained from it.
No, and it's like, I'd rather not know
what he's working on.
And it's like, and I don't want to go into it thinking of rank and good and bad and how far did I get. That's not what I'm judging any of this off of. And so at one point I actually went and I signed up through there was one of these websites you could go find, like group. No, it was like you could find group events or things, like people that were teaching stuff in your area. I don't remember what it was called.
Craigslist, back alley
No,
fights.
It was nothing weird. It was totally
Dirty Mike and the
like
boys?
regular. It was almost like a next door thing, but but either way, I found this Tai Chi place, and I went and like trained some Tai Chi. Like, I did a couple of classes, and it was just like this guy teaching Tai Chi in like a church, like a rec center, like off to the side. And I had asked him at one point, he knew that I had a background in martial arts, and I asked him. I said, "You hold on."
No, I'm not even gonna say it. I'm just laughing my head.
I told him. I said, "Hey, man," I was like, I have all these background in martial arts, and I love to learn how to apply them in different stuff. And I just kind of asked him a question about, do you know, or have you ever thought of, or do you know any way to apply Tai Chi to like real world applications? And he was like, the guy, I think it was Master Moy, is the guy who pretty much was the founder of the type of Tai Chi that I was practicing in. Okay. And he said that Master Moy said that if you have your mind on stuff like that, then it's like your mind isn't on your body in what you're doing. Yeah. And the whole point of what you're doing is to bring your mind and your body to be one. It's to really function as one, to still your mind and to focus on what you're doing. And that right there, it's like it clicked with me in a sense, because then I started to understand how I should look at these things. I shouldn't look at them as how can I apply this specific thing, because maybe I go in there and I learn that one of these arts helps me totally just de-stress and live my life happier. Yeah. And one of these arts, it'll help me drop somebody on their head.
One of these arts, I might enjoy the motions, and it's my workout. I think it's great for working out.
And another one's going to teach me to relax.
And my point is, is that if you are a martial artist that is wanting to, you want to be a competitive mixed martial artist, you want to go down that road, and you want to compete and do all those things, that's great. I think that's awesome, and I encourage you to do so. But what I would encourage you to also do is to go out and give these other things a chance. Go try a traditional Kempo karate class. Go try an Aikido class. Go try Tai Chi, because at the end of the day, if you're a martial artist, these dudes that are the best are the ones that are able to pull all these things that are useful from these different arts. And again, I wanted to talk about this because for so long I've always had to sit back, and me and Chris are the same. Me and him are like been in like a car riding together for 16 hours talking to each other for years in our own echo chamber about how we see this. And it really is it sucks because, again, so many people are judging all these martial arts by their ability to work in situations, and then they'll go and be like, well, look at this video of an Aikido guy getting beat up by an MMA guy.
Basically breaking it down to which one would beat the other.
Yeah, and it's like, of course the Aikido guy is going to get his ass whooped by the MMA guy. Who's going to play faster? A guy playing a classical piece by Bach, or a guy playing Steve Vai?
Yeah, so I guess if I'm just trying to think, everything that you're trying to say up to this point is the average consumer or viewer of martial arts looks at it in one specific light, and that's the competitive aspect of it, right? And so at a certain point in time, it sounds like this, whenever this Master Moy or somebody says something to you started appreciating and realizing all these martial arts have, I guess, like Chris was saying, there's spiritual and mental benefits to be taken from them. There's benefits outside of just, this one would beat the other. It's like you shouldn't even assess it that way. It's you're saying you learn to look at it completely separate from what one could do to the other, but looking at them each on their own and the values and teachings that they have. But I get the impression that there's the whole mental spiritual thing is a big component to you.
It's like, why do guys like Emmett Smith and Eddie George, why did they go learn fucking ballet?
To learn their bodies, right?
Yes.
I mean,
to be light on their feet. What the fuck? Who the fuck would ever do a pirouette in a fucking, toss left situation in 3rd and goal in the fucking, Super Bowl? It was like, he didn't do it to learn fucking ballet.
It's like learning your body.
Learn balance.
Yeah. Well, and the sad thing is, this last thing I'll say, I feel like with anything, a lot of the values and these crafts, they die out with generations that don't have an interest in them. And so it's almost like you're saying, if a bunch of kids are growing up and they're just seeing 3 out of 100 martial arts being worth of values, over time that knowledge is going to slowly dwindle and die.
And what I was going to say is I want to kind of like, I doubt there's any reason anybody from the dojo would see this, and it's the place I'd love to go back and train at again. My reason for not having trained Aikido super consistently, and I know that probably the people there would be like, that's stupid, come back, is because it's like I really do have a lot of respect for what those people are doing and the amount of commitment that these people have, and it's like I don't want to be somebody who comes and goes and affects their ability to train.
Like you were saying, you don't want to, if you're not going to be able to commit to all the way through, you don't want to start that journey just because you're letting yourself and them down, right?
I think it's more so talking about the biblical, like he doesn't want to allow himself to be a stumbling block for somebody else.
Well, and not just that. It's like I also like what he said mostly is that it's like I don't want to hold up somebody else's ability to learn because I'm kind of coming in half-assed in a sense, or I can't make every class and so I'm not becoming better. So, however, it's probably a bit of both in a sense.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So, but either way, I was just going to say is that it's like it really is cool to kind of answer your question about why I like some of these other things about is the philosophical side, or is that what is attracting me to some of them? And yeah, some of it is that. And also having the opportunity at that dojo, Aikido of Dallas, when you walk in there, man, it's a totally different. It's like, shut up, take your shoes off. You don't really talk. And then it's like people can kind of, and people will sit there on the mat and stretch out, and they'll have they'll have conversation. They'll have a little bit in the
pews, kind of chatting before the sermon.
They'll have a little bit of that going on, like whenever you go in there to participate. But then it's like there's this point where sensei or whoever's leading the class won't say anything, and they'll just kind of shuffle over and they'll take their position before the showman, which is kind of like it's like almost like in front of a fireplace. Is that the mantle or what's below at the bottom?
Mantle's above.
The mantle's the hearth. Yeah. So yeah, it's almost like they call the showman, which is where it's like almost a hearth level piece of wood that goes across the wall, and then there's a picture of O-sensei in front of it, and he'll just walk over and sit down on his knees at one point and sit in front of it, and then at that point everybody lines up in order of belt and order of rank, and so the guy that's the highest of rank goes all the way to the left, and the guy that's the lowest of rank goes all the way to the right. And it's kind of funny because then if you're all the way on the right, you get in this like almost like in a grocery store when you're going down an aisle and it's like, oh, who goes where? Because then you end up against somebody else who's also like just kind of started, and then it's just kind of funny because then they're okay, you go ahead and you go one end, I'll go to the end because I'm new. But it's really cool to be a part of it because you see that my point being with all this is that there's something, while you may not be able to totally apply a lot of this to your martial arts MMA career and physically putting this into action, what you get from it and being able, it's like going back in time. It's like to what samurais were doing.
So Aikido teaches time travel.
It's like you're stepping back to a time when they had a different set of values, and when people looked at something that they were doing with more respect, and they looked at what they were doing with. So
it's like you're a
dedicating
historian
yourself
of it. Even you just thinking the cultural aspects that went into building.
Well, think of it as it's almost. Yeah, it's like what's everything that went into being able to learn it in a sense, like all of that. And so
why was this developed in whenever this came about? Why was it coming about?
I believe
I'm
more
just saying in general, you know what I mean? So what's the history behind it? I'm sure there's a fascinating history behind each of them, which made all of their specific, techniques and methodologies pertinent to whatever that environment was, right?
A lot of them arose just from like the outlaw of weapons. That's why a lot of the times it's like your traditional karate weapons and stuff like that. You look at like a kama, which is literally just a small scythe that's a farm tool, or a bow staff that's literally just a walking stick or shit like that. It would literally be akin to like going out into your shed and learning how to fight with a fucking shovel, because why the fuck are they going to tell you you can't have a shovel?
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, it seems like you're saddened by the state of the society in general's view of martial arts, because basically society literally just thinks MMA. They don't even think martial arts anymore. And basically, who's fighting next? What did they study? That's better than that. And that there's a whole world that they're missing out on.
Yes, exactly. There's a whole world beyond. That's exactly like what I'm getting at. There's a whole world beyond what's useful. If you can do your best, and this isn't just for martial arts, for everything it works as well, but if you can do your best to stop looking at things and judging them by what's better or what's worse, what benefits me.
The comparison game is in everything.
What benefits me,
right?
what benefits me, what doesn't benefit me. Am I going to go help you do this? Well, what do I get out of it? Why? It's like, so if you can do kind of that, dropping that, thinking that, because again, that's what, when that guy said to me about at the Tai Chi class, when I asked him about how can I apply this to MMA or to a martial art or to, to a real life situation, he was like, the founder of our art didn't believe that if you believe that you're looking at a martial arts aspect, you're not focusing on your mind and your body. Yeah. And so it's like you're split.
It's funny. Just take the second word of those two words. What is it?
Which ones?
The main two we've been saying over and over.
Martial art.
What's the second word?
Art.
It just that simply. Think of art. So they're literally calling it an art. And if you think of art in any other realm, it's not a matter of one beating the other. It's like a painter and the different brushstrokes and the different techniques. So if that martial arts is literally an art, right? So there's beauty. There's more to be taken from it than just fighting in competition.
Well, there's incarnations.
And it's literally in the word art. Like it's like. That, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just having this realization myself.
Yeah,
it is an actual art form.
Exactly.
But people have completely stopped recognizing that part of it.
And if you look at where they come from, especially if you look at things like the Indonesian and like Southeast Asian arts.
Oh yeah, Pencat Silat, whatever.
Yeah.
I trained with a guy who did Silat.
Yeah, Silat, shit like that. Where that's one that a lot of time there was a video years ago that got a shitload of hate on it because the guy was basically just doing a drill and he was just like on the ground moving around like touching this dude's legs. And
with a power drill?
No, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But he was going through this drill and everybody's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like blah blah blah, this and that.
If you can untie their shoes before they come at you, they can trip.
And then you start digging into it together. And you realize that
I'm sorry, I just taught.
The reason that the Indonesians fight like that, the Southeast Asians fight like that,
they're small.
Like, it has nothing to do with that. It's the environment in which they live.
Yeah,
it's muddy. They work in rice paddies.
So this comes back to my question about the culture and the environment. Yeah.
You can't have the boxing footwork. Your feet are stuck.
Yeah, you don't have the ability to plant.
You're not in an octagon.
You can control your center of gravity, and you can drop your center. You can do. How would your style work fighting on ice? How would your style work? And so the region that you came from would dictate that. Keep in mind too that another thing with the Southeast Asians is they wear rings that had blades on the underside of them.
Yeah.
So what that guy was doing as a drill, people were, that'd never fucking work. It was like they fight like that because of the mud. They do this because they had
blades on their. He wasn't touching his calves. He was cutting his legs.
So this is what Wolverine practices.
Yeah, he was like literally, severing every fucking tendon and artery.
So this comes down to the whole like what was society in the era in the time it was built. How does that factor into it?
Yeah. Well, and so exactly that as well. And what I was going to say is a point I had also thought of with what he was talking about is that like when. The same way that MMA guys will look at other things and they'll say like that'll never work, that's bullshit, you can't, okay, try and grab my wrist and get me to flip on my head. Same way they'll try and say that would never work in the octagon, all that. A lot of the shit they're doing, while it would work, and that's the other pitfall of the MMA, while there's the one pitfall of thinking that Kung Fu as itself and all of the katas that you practice would work as applied in your day-to-day training, they would work the same in the octagon. Just as much as that's foolish to think, it's also just as foolish to think that everything you do in MMA will work on the street with zero consequence. Because, for instance, I don't care if it's Hoist Gracie, the best black belt. I don't care what MMA fighter you put today. If he's choking my brother outside of a bar, I'm kicking him in his forehead.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm kicking him in his forehead. I'm hitting him with a beer bottle over his head. He's not. You're not going to choke.
I'm going to hit him over.
You are not going to. I will level the playing field. If you're 6'8", 275 pounds, I'll grab a barrel and hit you.
I'm
so
digging
my
my
point.
thumb
So
to the third knuckle into your fucking eyeball.
Okay, but my point is that the pitfall, the main pitfall of this stuff, is that it's like you're also just as much as they want to be like, yeah, well, this stuff isn't going to work in the street, or this isn't going to work in the octagon. It's like, yeah, and the shit you're doing in the octagon will get you put in the morgue.
Yeah,
you'll end up dying because in the real world, like Chris has told me so many times, the ground is
confident.
The ground is lava. You don't want to end up there. And he would always say to me, "You end up on the ground, you get invited to the boot party. You're going to get stomped on."
Yeah.
And so to think, I don't care what color your belt is, it's going to end up red if you're jumping on some dude and he's got homies with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're just thinking that I'm going to be able to take this guy down and tap him out.
Yeah. It's like at the end of the day, people just want to see knockouts. Basically, that's what they want to see. They just want to see people get knocked out.
One, the thing is, you got to think about the mentality of the guy that you would be potentially fighting in that situation.
Yeah.
It's like you may be a totally rational fucking person that like, I just want this to end, so I'm just gonna choke this guy out. Whereas that guy may be from a totally different fucking social schema that like, in his world, if he goes unconscious, motherfuckers stomp your head in.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers run your pockets. And so it's like, you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to subdue this guy. I'm going to choke him. He's going to tap out or, we're going to have a beer.
He's thinking,
it's like,
I'm going to do whatever it absolutely takes.
I'm going to stab you 26 times.
Yeah. Until you
let
go.
You're going to think the whole time because you're adrenalized that I'm just punching you in the leg. And it's like, this dude was just punching me. He wasn't doing anything. And then you stand up and fall out, you just got stabbed to death.
Yeah, because then at that point you're playing like I heard a guy, it was a dude I went and trained with at one point. I learned I did like an introductory class on Wing Chun, and he was saying that at that point when you end up grappling with
pretty
people,
popular in the 80s, right?
Yeah, and he was saying that when you grapple with people, when you end up on the ground, he said you end up playing a game, you end up playing Mexican judo, and I started laughing. And I said, what are you, Mexican judo? And he said, yeah, judo know what I have in my pocket. Judo know what I have in my hand. Yeah. And it was a funny way of just bringing to light that, that is a real thing. That if you're fighting somebody in the street and you end up on the ground,
that person has the same values as you.
You can, and not only that, but you can be, aside from, he's 100% right. They don't have the same values, but you can be the best jiu-jitsu guy on the planet.
Yeah.
But if somebody's holding a weapon, if somebody has friends,
or a bullet's going to go way faster than a punch.
Exactly. and at the end of the day, all of this being said to just bring to light the fact that
guns are the best.
Well, to bring the light to the fact that for this other side that it's like they both have their pitfalls, they both have the areas they will and won't work, and it's ridiculous to try and sit here and then say in that scope, since MMA and a lot of the way they do it, since it's singularly focused on, one guy fighting another guy within a controlled environment, if they take that same approach into the real world and go do that, they can end up really hurt. Yeah. The same way that somebody who tries to go take his kung fu into the octagon and try that is going to end up really hurt.
Yeah.
And so to sit there and try and judge these two on their ability to do one or the other is totally pointless, and it's a waste of energy and time. And it's like they both have their own things, and maybe some of one will work in this world and some of the other will work in that. And at the end of the day, if you get enjoyment from them and you get some health benefits, that's what's important.
And again, I mean, it's not even, but it's almost another analogy that's probably worse than my last one. But like, again, thinking of it as art, I'm going to go see an amazing movie that's an action movie, and then I'm going to go see an amazing movie that's a drama, or I'm going to go see an amazing movie that's this. And it's like an art form that has all these different things that affect you and that you can take away emotional and even spiritual benefits from. I'm not going to say, oh man, Die Hard's better than Schindler's List. I'm like, I'm not even going to compare the two. They're both movies, but I'm not even going to try and say one beats the other,
No, exactly. Yeah. And so with all this being said, I want to because again, this is something that Chris, again, me and him are really both on the same page and passionate about, and I want to give him a chance to give his thoughts and interpretations on a lot of this stuff and talk about some of the people that I haven't even mentioned that he's learned about and brought into my realm of things, because again, it's like they also feel the same way, and this is where I've pulled some of this from. But I'd like to give him a little bit of time to just kind of, in light of everything we've said and about martial arts and the comparison of the MMA versus the martial art aspect.
No, yeah, I don't. I mean,
Can the representative from the couch has the floor?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
No, and I was just mainly looking to add and interject here and there. I wouldn't necessarily.
Well, I mean, I just know Chris. I know helps a launching pad. Anytime I've seen Chris go out of his way, anytime someone's talking at a party casually about fighting or just something, Chris will try and show them just the meaningful technique behind the self-defense aspect of it. Like, if someone's coming at you, what are you trying to do? Well, the reality of closing the gap, and there's all these weird
he
little
explains
things.
that he explains that because people will just be like, how do I do this? And he's like, well, first of all, you got to walk before you can crawl, or you got to crawl before you can walk. And so he'll explain to them those other subtleties, like you said. And so, at the end of the day, I know you didn't necessarily, you're just kind of, you were just wanting to interject, but I know you have a lot to say on this.
Yeah, but it's like,
I would say just think about the combat aspect.
It's not even necessarily that. It's like I feel like a lot of and I feel like I'm being really loud on this thing. I'm not sure how close I am to it.
You're good.
But I feel like a lot of the problem arises in that, like, there's a lot of people out there that get into martial arts and shit like that, where it's like, just like I was, where it was like, because I was the oldest, so it was like I didn't, it wasn't like I was gonna go like run home to daddy, be like, hey, they were picking on me. I kind of just had to take my lumps and learn how to deal with it. And I have no like formal martial arts. Like it was all just whatever. I never.
But you're a student of a lot of it.
Oh, yeah, no,
I know
I've read
you could write a book on a lot of it, just because I've seen you explain a lot of the little basic tenets of a lot of this.
I've read everything I could get my hands on since I was a small child about it.
Okay, given that, just what is an underlying element of all of them that you feel like connects them all, and that you think would telling me about I'd benefit the most from?
I mean, it really just depends, because that was the point that I was getting to, is I feel like a lot of times the thing that brings most people to the martial arts is that same thing. It's like, even though I am where I am now, it's like I never lost that feeling of like what it was like to like get picked on or whatever, or to not have somebody to fucking run to. And like, I don't ever want somebody to feel like that. And I feel like a lot of times when people go seek out the martial arts and shit like that, it's because of something like that they're afraid that it is that self-defense aspect. And that's why I was saying earlier about the 4 focuses, where the problem arises that, like, this dude is a fucking sport karate guy that has studied it for 30 years. And if somebody tried to, rob him, he'd probably be okay. Yeah. But it's like, you may have this kid walking into this school that lives in a violent neighborhood, that like has to walk home through a bad neighborhood. This kid needs to learn something right fucking now. Yeah. Like, this kid ain't looking for like, okay, so I do this and I bring it back. It was like, this kid wants to, it was like, he's trying to learn how to, protect himself. Yeah. And that's why I feel like, there's that gravitation towards MMA, because a lot of people view that as sense. The closest thing to a fight is this and that, whatever. Yeah,
and MMA, so like, I see him coming at him, and that's what's happening to me. Yeah. People are just coming at me, so this will work.
Like what Mikey said, it was like, you have the MMA guy that goes to the kung fu place, or the kung fu guy stepping into the octagon. But then there's a third issue with all that too, and especially with like the trend towards MMA and stuff like that, is that, it's as realistic as it can be without adding multiple opponents and,
ladder matches are the best,
stuff.
Man.
Yeah, well, as I said, shit like that, stuff on the ground or whatever. Yeah. But, like, I've lost my. I literally.
No, but it's. I just one thing I don't know is like where you said there's 4 approaches or just
4 focuses.
4 focuses. Like where I'd never heard that before. So what's that from?
Animal. I let you borrow that.
Yeah.
Book.
So again,
I let you borrow that book like 20 years
ago. Yeah,
so
I remember you let me borrow that. But
he asked the question.
I didn't read it all.
That book is called "Taking It to the Streets" by Mark Animal McYoung.
4 focuses.
It's called "Making Your."
Okay.
No,
I know it's not called that. I'm just repeating that term.
That's where I learned that principle.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's who like kind of was hoping you kind of talk about was Animal, because that's the thing that like Chris is. Again, he says like he never necessarily did all the classes like I did, but that doesn't mean anything, because then again, anything I learned, I went and told him.
Yeah. And
it's like we would train together and do stuff together. And really what was funny is a lot of he came and trained a couple of like seminars with me in Sistema and stuff, and got to like, work with some of those guys. And he already, he knew most all these concepts. And that's kind of what's cool about it too, is that it's like, even so if you're watching this and you don't have the money or anything, at the end of the day, it's like, there are people out there where you can go seek out the right literature and the right books, and if you know what to pull from them, it's like you can really build. You can figure out a lot.
And so from just the knowledge,
it's not necessarily it's not the technique. It's understanding the principle of the technique, and it's like, and if you understand that underlying principle, where it's like the one that I always go back to is like a throw. Okay. There's only, I think there's only 3 ways to throw a person. And again, this was something that I had learned from Animal, or Mark McYoung.
Yeah.
That was what he used to write under, was Animal. But it was the idea of blowing the support. So if you look at a human being like a 2-legged stool, you put them where the 3rd leg wouldn't be.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Okay.
So that would be taking the center of gravity outside the cone of balance.
Okay.
There's slaving, which is literally
that's
just
illegal.
tacking. Slaving is tackling somebody. So if I was to fall and grab onto you and pull you down with me, I'm falling to the ground and I'm slaving my weight to your weight, and I'm using my falling body weight to pull you down. And then
so it's like that Michael Douglas movie.
So either way, the point being. Okay. And I know I only said 2 because I'm blanking on the 3rd. But either way, there's no throw in any art. Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, any of them, like, that does not involve one or a combination of those. Those elements. All 3 of those principles.
Okay.
Like, every throw you will ever learn relies on one or more of those principles.
And what are those principles again?
It was like for a throw, it would be blowing out the support. So
balance, basically?
Taking somebody's leg out from under them, slaving your weight to theirs, literally just fucking tackling somebody.
Balance, using your weight and gravity as a part of it.
And then, pushing the center of gravity outside of the cone of balance.
Okay.
So it's like, if you were to look at a human being with their feet, like,
and all of those 3 of those things come together to make a throw.
So the thing is, you don't have to know 1,000 different throws. If I know those 3 principles, I can make up the throw on the fly.
Exactly.
Because
based on
I
the
just
situation
touched
you're
you.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't need to look at you and be like, oh man, he's here, I could do this. It's like, no, he's right here. I've already got his fucking center of balance. Like, I'll just put my foot here and shove him because he's falling that way.
Yeah.
Just as a quick side note to what he's saying, not to stop him because I want him to keep talking, but what he's saying is the same quote that Morihei Ueshiba, like the founder of Aikido, said. He had a quote that said, "When I move, the technique is born." So what he's saying is that if I know these main underlying principles of how to drop somebody on their head, then I don't have to know one specific way to throw them. If I'm moving back and I feel that they're coming towards me and I realize I can stick my foot out and grab you by the collar of your shirt and pull you and drop you on your head, then that's all I need to do. And so that's understanding that's the martial art. That's the Twinkie, the cream filling, is learning all these things, pulling these different things from it.
But sometimes you don't learn that until you do Tai Chi or Aikido.
And in the moment of training or doing something, you find it and you realize that, these things are dynamic situations. Not one of these static techniques that I'm learning is going to work the exact way I'm being taught it, because it's not, because for instance, it might start off where the guy grabs your wrist and then from there you do this. Right, and then you do this,
piece in Tai
and then
Chi that makes your karate work.
We're not. My point is that it's like that might be how a technique starts, but then all of a sudden you find yourself at the third step of the technique and not the first in a fight, and you learn how to work from there. You're like, so normally they grab me at the wrist, but then I move them to here, and it's like, and I got them there, but they already started out here. So then I can just, instead of doing the whole early 2 steps, I can cut that out and do the last 2.
Yeah.
But
so
a lot
it's
of
like
times you never even think of it. Your body just moves in that way.
And you don't do it. You don't learn that type of stuff until you just get into something. So point being, don't let any of this stop you. If you can't see it right now, if you can't see the forest through the trees in any type of martial art, if you want to go do karate, kung fu, whatever, go do it. It'll make sense in some of those terms, but you have to just start doing it.
What's the most unappreciated one? It sounds like there's one that speaks to your heart, maybe the most, that you feel like is being unappreciated.
Aikido is one that a lot of people shit on.
Yeah, so the one personally that speaks to me in my heart that I feel like is shit on is Aikido, because the only reason I would say Systema, it's also equally shit on, but most people don't know about Systema. Majority of people know about Aikido.
And it's a punchline.
Exactly, because of Steven Seagal. But I feel like there's so much there that literally the people that know stuff about martial arts, again, I'll cite him, and this isn't a knock, but this is like Joe Rogan. He knows a shitload, but I still feel like there's things that are being missed by, certain people like him or other of the people that are involved in the UFC MMA world,
see it in the cage.
Because they can't
know what people are fighting.
It's like you can't see exactly what, just because you can't see how it works out. Like again with Machida, he's my main example. He showed you how karate is applicable. There's going to be somebody that comes along one day, there's going to be a guy that comes along one day who knocks a dude out with a Wing Chun trap. There's going to be a dude who traps a guy's punch and Wing Chun and punches him and knocks somebody out, and then they're going to be like, "Oh my god!" And then at that point they're gonna put their knee pads on and be like, "This guy's amazing. He applied kung fu." It's like,
do you know somebody that used that that a lot of people didn't know? It was Roberto Duran. He was a world champion,
boxer,
middleweight boxer in the '80s, and used a lot of those same principles. But you know, it didn't get a lot of recognition, and so people never really jumped on it. But that guy won world championships. Everybody was terrified of that guy, and he took something that most people today would be like, "Oh, you can't use Wing Chun." He's like, you watch interviews with him, and he'll literally tell them, like, I was practicing hand trapping and shit like that from those arts.
Bruce Lee practiced fencing.
Yeah, exactly. So that was pretty cool. I feel like trying to wrap up the whole idea of it all. I think it kind of said what I think you're trying to say is just the appreciation for the martial arts and for people to not automatically write off anything that's not one of these big three, BJJ or kickboxing or whatever.
Establish what your goal is.
Or not even that, but I feel like Mikey just the appreciation of the martial art for what it is. Just looking outside of the goal, but just to literally each of these different martial arts have principles and benefits and values, and they are arts in their own right. And so it's worth looking at and not just shitting on.
Yes.
Because one doesn't beat the other in a simulated fight.
Yes. To touch on what you just said, yes, that's mostly the nuts and bolts, the brass tacks of what I'm saying. Is that there's more than meets the eye, and you never know what you might find by exploring one of these things. And don't judge it, again, if I'll say the quote, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its entire life believing it's a failure. So if you're somebody who's trained these arts and you hear these other people, you don't try and defend it. Whatever, it is what it is. Let them have their opinions. Those who know do not say, those who say do not know. Lao Tzu said that. That's what's kind of funny.
And I mean, what's so a keto fish?
Exactly.
And to anybody out there that may be watching this that has spent a lot of time studying something, in the hopes that it would translate, I would definitely recommend that book by Mark Animal McYoung called "Taking It to the Streets."
Sounds like we've already got his wreck of the week right there.
Well, it's making your martial arts street effective, and he literally wrote the whole thing from. He was that kid that needed to learn something right away, wasn't getting what he needed, and then went to these places or whatever, and it's basically trying to deconstruct it so that somebody that spent 10 years learning something, doesn't just have to be, oh, this is all bullshit. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Exactly. It's like, no, you can still take those same principles you've learned because you have a very good base, but here's how you take what you already know and apply it to a real world situation.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. So yeah, we can. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, thank you for letting me.
No, I learned a lot, and it all makes sense to me, especially just with a lot of the perspectives and things that we share on life in general and approaches to anything, right? So, but I think we'll take a quick break, and then we've been going on for a while, so I'll probably
do
come
recommendation
back.
of the week and then wrap it up.
Yeah, I might touch on like one or two ideas, but not much longer, and then we'll get on the fun out of here.
Get on the fun out of here.
All right, we're back. So that was pretty enlightening. I loved what you had to say about martial arts. I loved learning more about it, and it was a great segment. And actually, I look forward to kind of just doing some more research on my own. There's a lot of just the principles behind a lot of them all. But
and I'd like to have you kind of be able to talk more about your later on, do part 2 of it or something. But thanks again for letting me kind of sit there and spitball, and also to maybe those of you who are watching and saw us wearing the gis. The tops, in no means should you take that as though I'm making a mockery of martial art or anything. I love martial arts. It's just kind of like doing the best I can to put that hat on while we're talking about a subject.
Exactly.
It's something fun we're doing here and trying to mix it up a little bit. So if you're watching this, it
was no joke.
It's no means meant to be a mockery of anything.
Yeah, but before we wrap it up, obviously we'll throughout the day I'll have different thoughts. Existential or philosophical or just about life in general or just different components or aspects, parts of life. And I was thinking simply about ambition, right? So ambition or drive, okay? And then so I'm thinking personally there are moments where I feel more ambitious and more motivated, like where I'll sit up late and for a couple hours I'll work and I'll edit and I'll create something, or I might write a song or something, and then obviously other times I don't, and there's things that dampen it. So I'm just thinking, what dampens it? Obviously things in life and stresses would seem to be obvious, but then what sparks it? What's the underlying motivating factor, and is it maybe a personality trait that leads to being ambitious? I don't know. Again, I'm just thinking like stream of consciousness.
No, I get you.
You meet people that are more ambitious than others. Like what we're doing now is, I guess, an example of ambition. I don't know, but whatever it is, we're doing it. People talk about it, doing it. We decided we're gonna do it, and we're doing it. And what is, why aren't the people that talk about it not doing it? It's like whenever I was young and I wanted to be. I think it was wrong, but when I first got into guitar, I really liked it, but a lot of times what drove me to want to get better at it was to make sure, and I didn't even have to prove it to anybody, but to make sure that I was better than everyone I knew.
Really?
And that's where like I had to sit there and play something in front of them and show them that I was technically better. But in my mind, it's like I wanted to know that anyone that was in my level of reality, whatever, that I was better than them, and that was a motivating factor. In which I think might be wrong, because I would like to think in the perfect situation, just the love of the thing should be the factor. But
Absolutely.
Then I think about the end result, and does it matter?
No.
The end result, right? So
no, it doesn't. And yeah. No.
Yeah, and so I'm sorry because I just wrote down. Then I'll be done.
Keep going.
And you can give your thoughts. So I was thinking, what is the biggest deterrent to accomplishing any goal? When you think of think of all the time you've wasted doing nothing but know of things you want to do, why don't you do them? So it's like all those times you think, oh man, if I had the time to do this or do that, But if you go back in your life and you look at all the times that you were sitting around and BSing, you know, why didn't you do them? Is it simply laziness, fear of failure, fear of how it will be perceived, fear of what comes when you're done, like the fear of accomplishing it? You know, what's the seemingly inherent characteristic in more people than not that holds them back from realizing dreams and potential? At the end of the day, I almost think it's just laziness. Maybe just the energy to be able to do it. You know, I don't know. Again, I just think that you think about all the people and all the things that they're capable of. And in this quote, and I don't remember, it's from some movie, but I thought it was simply profound. But like, potential is what people say when what they see in front of them isn't good enough.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. No. Yeah. My ex-girlfriend told me she thought I had potential. Bitch.
Right. So no, think about it. If you said, "Man, you've got so much potential," that's like saying, well, you could be better.
You could be better.
And so just the concept of ambition. And I guess maybe at the end of the day, I think I consider myself fairly ambitious. Just, you know, to the point of having a goal and accomplishing it or certain things. But at the end of the day, a lot of it's like, is it my upbringing? Is it the certain, you know, blessings in just the way my life has, you know, played itself out with my parents, my friends, my social interactions, relationships, stuff. I don't know, but I just think about the simple idea of ambition, and it's, I don't know, it's a simple thing, but it's so many people talk about what they should have done, or I wish they would have done that, and they actually, if you look back on the time in their life, they had the time to do it, but they didn't do it. And I really think it comes down to laziness, and that's it.
Some people are just looking for the perfect circumstance,
but again, laziness. You create luck. You create your own luck,
and that's boiling it down to its like basis level. But I feel like a lot of times, you know, it's like, oh, I could do this, but I don't have this, or I don't have that, or
It's an excuse, but it's like they have an excuse to be lazy. Correct. They have an excuse to not do it.
They're making excuses.
Yeah. So personally, with everything that you like, keeping in mind everything you just said, I see what you're saying about how I kind of see it. I'm not disagreeing.
No, I'm not saying that
there's not. No, I know, and I'm not disagreeing, and I understand that you're not saying that this is all it.
It's like a conversation. With myself.
Exactly, and I understand that, and I'm not like taking a position just to be like you're wrong or I'm right. It's just more of that understanding that, because you are right about the laziness, it plays a factor. But also, I think what plays a factor with most people because like you said, people oftentimes look back and they say, I should have done that, I wish I did that, or why didn't I do this? But they don't actually do stuff. And it's like, I think it's like the old saying, in a sense, of hindsight is 20/20. You can only know that by seeing where you are now and looking back to what you thought then, that you should have gone down that road then versus now. But it's like, the thing is that I feel like a lot of people, what seems like laziness is more or less paralysis to analysis and indecision, in the sense that, so
I don't
for
think
instance,
that many people are analyzing that much.
So you might be right. You might be right that not all of them are, but some of them do, because I'm kind of this person. I'm giving you a glimpse. I'm giving you a glimpse into who I am, in a sense.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is, I could be a great painter. I could be, you know, a fantastic welder.
Yeah.
I could be a number of things
that you never tried.
But and so you're asking, why don't you do that? Because sometimes
I'm asking, why don't you do that if you wanted to, or you talk about it?
Because exactly. So either way, because you want to or you talk about it, people go to start doing something like that and realizing that there's something more, quote, pressing that they feel like they should be doing. Whether it's an outward pressure from society, why aren't you looking for a fucking job? Why aren't you doing this?
I think it might be more work than they're willing to put in.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just think the other side of the coin, it might be that it's more work than they put in.
No, but also, they're willing to put in. They're at the end of the day, they're like, man, that was a lot of work. I don't have the motivation to do it.
So laziness, how many people do you feel like, though, are that affected by laziness, and it's not also a factor of, again, somewhat of social pressure and understanding that it's like, because again, giving you a glimpse, I'm going to start going to do something, but it's like, really, I should be organizing receipts to do my taxes. really I should be going and doing, there's other things I need to be spending my time. So it's like, if you go sit down to paint, exactly. I'm not going to go sit down. As soon as I go to start, sometimes when I go to start a subject, since I procrastinate in other areas of my life, I'll go to start something to do and I'll be like, I need to go do this instead. So I never do it. Not because I'm lazy, but because I've procrastinated on other things in a sense, and I think to myself, maybe I should do this, or maybe some of it could be
part of my life undone.
This isn't necessarily how I am.
Yeah, that's one of the things, is a fear of how it will be perceived. That was one of my answers to
and
myself.
That's why I was saying about you weren't wrong, is because I was keeping that in mind. Like, you're right, like how it's perceived, because it's the outward social thing of like, well, how is it going to look if some dude is just not working a job, but he's spending all of his waking hours painting?
But I'm looking at the person who is working their job. Say they work 60 hours a week, because you have the people who work full time and then they spend all the free time on their passion. They might be making music, making a movie. So you have these people that are so ambitious and motivated. They do everything they have to do for the normal life to take care of the family and everything. But then those few free minutes that they have, they take them thing. And they do the whatever it is. And I'm thinking, the people who do that versus the people who is like, I just don't have the energy to do it, which would be understandable, right? Because it's easy to justify, I'm too tired, I just need to take this time. So that, again, I'm just thinking if it's an underlying trait, I guess.
You're probably right, and I don't. Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's definitely, right. I just don't think that it's pure laziness or somebody just being lazy. Right. And I think oftentimes too, some of that, because laziness from the outside, you can look
situational.
At
some of that stuff too comes from like just a sense of like desperation, where somebody has to make it work, and so it's like, somebody has to, it's like, 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, like, I got no other option. It's like, I
see the overall thing of what you're saying, and it's like, why don't more people do stuff
when they don't really have good excuses?
Exactly. They don't have a solid excuse
on anyone, but it's just, I guess I'm just wired to where, like, it's like you didn't want to start something you can't finish. Like you kept bringing up a podcast or something, and not. I wouldn't hate on you, but I was like, okay, you keep talking about, just do it. And I'm like, because I know myself, like whenever I wanted to do a band, I'm like, I'm going to at least record some songs. And I did that. I'm like, I'm going to at least do that. I got Jason and Billy. I got them. I wrote the songs. I recruited them to play them with me, and I did it. So at least I did it. I can die knowing that I did that, and I tried and whatever, right? And so it's like, that's what you mentioned, doing something. I'm like, if you talk about it, doing it, either do it or don't talk about it. I mean, but which is wrong, but that's my mindset,
it's not wrong. It's just that's the way that your mind works.
And I think my standards might be too high, maybe, or they aren't realistic.
Well, it's the personality test. That's the way your brain works.
And I don't think it's wrong. It's, in a sense, it's learning.
I think less of people when I shouldn't.
So here's the thing: the way I see it, depending on how I look at it, how I look at a personality type like yours, is everything you were doing, instead of, because there was a moment where I was like, it's like, do I take it personal and think that Matt thinks I'm full of shit? Or do I look at it another way? And it's like, I feel like the way people need to look at maybe somebody who pushes them or somebody who says stuff like that, instead of looking at it in a personal way, look at it like the bare root of, like you were saying earlier, what is the two words I said? Martial art. What was it that you were saying to me about, like, the podcast? If you want to do it, let's do it. I'm ready.
Well, maybe he's trying
to
it's like steel man.
And so instead of sitting there and thinking like, this person is making this judgment, or look at like what this, kind of like how your personality is, instead of me taking that personal, look at it like, yeah, he's right. Why don't I just do it? And he's right. Like, there's really nothing to be afraid of. And to learn and to harness what I'm trying to say is, for me personally, to be able to harness what you have, in the sense of like, you are very much a person that like just put your fucking nuts on the chopping block and you don't give a fuck. You're confident that it's like, yeah, I know what I know, and I don't give a fuck. And it's like, so instead of me, you just seem very vindicated, and you know what you know, and you're happy. Like, you don't push it on anybody, and you don't think you're not
convicted.
Convicted. Like, sorry, convicted. in what you believe and everything. And so it's like, and instead of me sitting here and like being threatened by that or anything, or being like, I just take from that, I'm like, damn, I love that. I admire that. And it's and
hopefully ultimately the intention of my heart of hearts is whenever people say something and I say just do it, it's because I believe they can.
And that's what I was trying to get at. That's what I was trying to
sharpen.
Yeah, it's because they'll say something and they're not doing it. I'm like, dude, just do it. Just do it. And and it's because I know that they have a gift, or I know that they can, and it's just a matter of just like, if you look at our first episode, it looks like utter garbage.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? Just do it. Just do it. Just start doing it. Don't hold back. And I guess what... And I, like you said, I want to try. What stops people? And a lot of times, I guess it's fear.
And I was gonna say it's a fucking,
and it's not one.
It's not one thing. It's a hamburger, so to say. You got the meat, you got the lettuce, you got all the fixings you can smash on this thing, and it makes this overall, inconceivable like feat to do, because you have to eat this big massive thing or whatever. It's like there's all these layers to it. How do you
eat an elephant?
Yeah,
one bite at a time.
Exactly. Yep. And so it's like, I think that a lot of it probably falls into, number one, like you said, it's a portion of it is laziness. It's a pinch of laziness. It's a pinch of
and everything
insecurity.
Else is a form of fear. Yeah.
It's a pinch of
that, and everything else is a form of fear.
Yeah,
one way or the other.
It's a pinch of this. It's a pound of that.
Fear is like the most powerful controlling thing in the world, and it's all forms
it's
and
like,
fashions.
It's like the Seinfeld, the public speaking.
Yeah,
and he was like, the number one fear of people is public speaking.
They'd rather be in the casket.
Number two is death. It's like, so it means that you would rather be in the casket than the one standing up there giving the eulogy.
And all that say, again, this was just me, because I'll have these thoughts.
No, this is really good.
I have these thoughts across my mind, and like you're saying, and it makes me happy that you say that you see me or my behavior, and it helps motivate you.
It does.
Because at the end of the day, anything I can do to help somebody like realize or just their potential, or just have a dream or a goal and accomplish or achieve it, I love that. That's what I want to say. Like, tip of the cap to you. This is kind of what I do like, is that a few times, this is the second time now I've kind of said something on the podcast that I've never said before, like to the person outside of it. Like I said to Vito the other day when he was here, like that he actually inspired me to kind of give a shot at myself and say, don't be afraid, go outside your your comfort zone and do something a little different. And it's like, I've seen that, like, from you, and how you've, for years ago, we went out to eat together, and you tried, because you saw something in me and you wanted to instill in me that, like, dude, don't count yourself or sell yourself short. You have a lot of potential. And then it's like, all these years later, a lot of the things you've said and pushing this whole podcast thing along, it's like, it really has. I haven't looked at any of it personally, and I've really started to look at what you've been telling me through the eyes of how you've aimed it, in the sense that it's like, you want me to see my potential, and you want me to see that, like, the only thing holding me back is me, and that there's nothing stopping us. And that's what's really cool, is that it's like, it really is like, it's huge.
Constructive.
Yeah. And it's huge. It really is like, so and that only came from me also. Like, this is somewhat of me being like tooting my own horn, but it did come from me having to understand and to put myself aside, to empty my cup, so to say, and to say that I don't know shit. I need to stop acting like my apprehensions for doing things is, well, I'm scared to do it because of this, or I'm scared to do, and you're just like, just fucking do it. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'll do it, Matt. I'll do this and put myself at risk of getting made fun of. But it's like, I'm laughing.
Yeah,
I find myself, I don't care, and since I'm laughing so much and having a good time, I don't care if people look at me and they're like, what does he think? It's like, it has become so freeing. You helping to push me along is, honestly, this has become really like,
it makes me happy. That and just knowing the
it hasn't been
isolated,
missed.
Well, thank you. That and knowing the single isolated instances where we have made somebody feel better or made somebody feel special, or Brent, having him here was amazing. That meant a lot to him. So, makes like I said, if that's the highlight and the best, the last good thing we do, it was all worth it. We could do this for 20 years.
Yeah.
If we do this for 20 years, we don't get one more view. The people that we've had any positive impact on that it was worth it for that. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. So again, that's just sharing some of our thoughts, and we can talk about global warming next time.
Dude, yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about global warming, because he had it up here on his thing as like a note of maybe something we could talk about. Again, and I think it'd be really funny and cool, because why not? We'll see how we can.
Then there's thoughts, and then there's how I just justify a husband's role in raising a baby and the work in that, but I'll save that for later.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So I guess
because Stephanie wouldn't listen, but
yeah, we need to get.
I told her I'm
Brent
drafting
and-
something.
Yeah.
Get Brent and Brandon.
Yeah, I'm writing a
here
baby
for
book.
that.
I actually have started writing a baby book.
I love that you're writing that.
I'm not even
you
joking.
Should. You should, because you write me texts that are big enough to be books. So you should go ahead and do.
I literally
Now though,
am.
you've streamlined the process with the voice, the audio messages, and
Dude,
that.
I only picked
Now
up
I
on that because
bombard
Chris
you.
was here last week and he was doing the voice message things.
And I'm
I
gonna
never thought
bombard
about
you.
that.
I'm gonna bombard you.
And I
with-
did that to Mikey.
me and Matt now have just been voice messaging each
That's what
other
you
back
should-
and
I'm
forth.
like, dude,
It's a game changer.
It's old.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, my phone does a transcript of whatever he says.
Yeah, he tried to prove that his phone's superior over mine because he got
I
a
did try and prove.
transcript.
I just gave you
Android.
evidence
Oh,
of what
he's
mine
trying.
could do.
Oh,
an
okay.
Android master race.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Androids.
to kind of like to be a bit more professional and to push this thing along.
Yeah, man.
Let's do the best we can to wrap this up.
Yep, let's wrap her
We'll
up.
go all the way from the corner over here to the left of the dealer is how it goes. So what's your recommendation of the week?
Well, it's not martial arts related, and it's not.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't.
Doesn't
be.
have to
It
be.
shouldn't be. If you, I don't know. If you haven't had a near-death experience, you should try that out.
Okay. So don't be afraid to speed, take corners fast, do things a little sketchy.
Yeah, no.
Because the worst that's going to come from it is a life-altering experience that gains perspective.
No, but just contemplate the question of if we exist because we're conscious or if we're conscious because we exist.
Okay.
Give that some thought over the week.
Ooh, I'm going to have you write that down before I leave
All right.
in my phone because I like that. If I would have to say my recommendation of the week, it would be in light of, it doesn't have to do with martial arts, but somewhat in light of what we're talking about with the subject matter about misinterpreting things or whatnot and all this, is just whatever whether it's watching a movie, listening
I'd like
to
to say
something.
whether you're white or black.
No.
It doesn't matter if you're black or white.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So whether
Shout
you're
out
listening,
Michael Jackson.
whether you're listening to a podcast, whether you're learning a martial art, watching a movie, maybe it's like you're not a sci-fi person and you're not into that. Do the best you can, and no matter what it is that you're doing, do the best you can to suspend your judgment and just view something, watch something, learn about something, and don't try and go into it with any of your preconceived ideas and stuff. And also don't rate things like good or bad. Just view things.
Yeah.
Don't make a gradation of them that I think I like this, I don't like that. This is better, this is worse. Just view stuff and stop looking at it in that terms of better
don't
or worse.
Don't apply a judgment of good or bad. Just give it value for what it is on its own.
Exactly. And if you just view it for what it is and see what happens. Just see what happens from there. That's all.
All right, Mr. Couch, Mr. Smith.
Well, and I guess kind of.
Please don't say you're piggybacking on him.
I was going to. I was going to. No, just going like to the martial arts thing or whatever, though. It's something that I think I read it from that guy, Mark McYoung. But he was talking about like watching stuff or whatever, and it's like you really can learn something from everything, even if it's how not to do it.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And so it's like, so don't, like you said, don't necessarily apply judgment to a thing.
Yeah.
It's like watch it and like the Bruce Lee quote, take what is useful and discard what is not. And the thing is, a lot of times what ends up happening is that it's like you may watch something and, some piece of it may be useful to you right now and the rest of it doesn't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
But then some years down the road, you go back, you revisit it, and you're like, how the fuck did I miss that?
Yeah.
I thought that was the important part.
Yeah.
No, this was.
Yeah.
And so it's,
cool.
it's like, and
that's
you can
awesome.
figure just about anything out if you look at it long enough.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and just one thing that reminded me because
Go ahead.
briefly talking about GSP and just one thing
Yeah.
I love, and this is a lot of fighters or a lot of just people, and it basically taking failure where they talk about like one of the greatest and biggest turning points in
the
their life
biggest teacher.
was whenever they failed, right?
the
Like
best
they're a
teacher.
good teacher, to where like he talks about this loss he had, like if he didn't have that loss, he probably would have never been
Matt
as great as he was, you know?
Probably Matt Sarah.
Yeah. And so it's simple, but it's old, but it really is. It's don't get paralyzed or give up whenever you get. It's like cliche, but it's so true. So many people fail or they have a hard time and they give up. It's like no, like the people who have success, they've you know, whatever Einstein quote 1,000 times. Board. You know, it's like you just don't give up. It's that simple.
No, and to quote, to kind of to slam dunk alley-oop what he just said.
Oh, piggybacking?
To piggyback what he just said. I'm piggybacking
it, so.
Oh, I'm slammed. Yeah, I named it different. So blah.
Well, he said, it's different.
Chris is, he flea flicker
off what Mikey said.
You guys are getting off on technicalities here.
So all right. Yeah. So what I was just gonna say is that to quote what he was saying about failing and not being afraid to fail, to piggyback what you said by a very real thing that. Well, we love TV shows and all that. And to quote my boy Julian Baptiste from that TV show, he said that from The Missing, he said, it's only a failure when you give up.
All right.
So that's to double down on what you're saying is that it's like you can fail and do all that, but if you don't give up and you keep going.
Until
exactly.
you cease to stop trying.
Exactly.
Or you cease to keep trying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Let's make this awkward.
Hey,
we're going to go play hacky sack now.
All right.
So we're fucking out of here.
All right, guys. Thanks for sticking around and go MMA yourself some mosquito fish.
Yep.